Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the North Platte City Council meeting here on Tuesday, May 5th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. Of course, we're here in the council chambers, calling the meeting officially to order. We have an invocation by Reverend Jonathan Sorensen from St. Patrick's Church, please.
O God, source of all wisdom and light, we humbly gather before you at the start of this our civic duty. We ask for the guiding grace of the Holy Spirit to rest upon the members of this city council, the staff, and all who participate in this meeting. Grant us the prudence to discern the needs of our community, the courage to make difficult decisions with integrity, and the charity to seek the common good above all private interests. Inspire our hearts to act with justice and compassion, remembering especially the poor, the vulnerable, and the marginalized within our city. May our deliberations and votes reflect a commitment to the lasting well-being and unity of all residents. Through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Angie, the roll call, please.
Lee.
Here.
Guy.
Here.
Ford.
Here.
Lucas.
Here.
Garrett.
Here.
Landers. Reeker.
Here.
McNew.
Here. Thank you. Current copy of the Open Meetings Act of the State of Nebraska is posted on the wall at the back of the council chambers. Meeting procedure: the public may address specific agenda items at the pleasure of the mayor. If recognized by the mayor, please identify yourself by stating your name and address. Please address the council through the mayor and limit your remarks. We respect our city employees and request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in the public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. Consent agenda. All matters under the consent agenda are considered by the city council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any city council member may, however, remove an item from consent by request. Number 1A, approve minutes of April 21, 2026. B, place on file treasurer's report for March 2026. C, approve the application by La Hacienda Market LLC for an addition to liquor license area located at 315 East 6th Street. D, approve the application by Pal's Brewing for a special designated license on May 16, 2026 from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the D&N Event Center, 501 East Walker Road for a happy hour fundraiser. E, approve the application by DEAM LLC, DBA Axes and Aces for a special designated license on May 9, 2026 from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. at the Victory Village on Lakeview Clubhouse, 107 Pioneer Drive for a going away party. F, approve the application by Bodunks Brewing, DBA Pegleg Brewing for a special designated license on May 30th, 2026 from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. with an alternate date of May 31, 2026 at Pegleg Brewery, 2519 Halligan Drive for a car show. G, approve application by Bodunks Brewing, DBA Pegleg Brewing for a special designated license on June 6, 2026 from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. at Pegleg Brewery, 2519 Halligan Drive for a Muck March. H, approve, I don't know what it is either, but it sounds fine. Approve the purchase of an ABI Laser guided infield groomer from Turfwerks for the Parks and Recreation Department at the amount of $46,660.05.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda less item H.
Second.
Go ahead.
Motion by Reeker, second by Nisley to approve the consent agenda, accepting item H. Calling the question. Consent agenda accepting item H is approved. Mr. Reeker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question for Lyle, I guess, about this machine. What is this going to be doing, and what's it for? And just give me some kind of an idea, if you would, please.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Council. We just spent $83,000 on renovating all the infields of all the baseball fields and softball fields. And what this will do will raise the standard of what we've compared to what we've had in the past. We'll be able to guarantee more games. We'll be able to provide safety. When I say safety, a lot of times we have good old Nebraska winds blows dirt across them infields and creates a lip. And this machine will help eliminate that on a regular basis. And so it's going to be one of those things that we're going to keep our fields at a high standard of grooming, and as well as bring in more tournaments, because the word will probably get around that we have safe fields, and then we'll also be able to be more playable even after a certain amount of rain.
Lyle, is it the case that this will crown the fields as well?
Yes, that's why the laser helps that tremendously, that we can set that laser and have an angle from, say, the home plate and pitcher's mound line, second base, and slope it away, and then go the other way towards the third base too. That way the rain will run off. We won't have the dips and the holes and stuff like that where rain collects. So,
Okay, thank you. Pete, go ahead.
Yeah, if I might add a little bit onto that, I spent about 10 years working on Billwood Field, and like Lyle said, we just put in about $85,000 of dirt there and sod, and if we don't maintain it, it's really hard. They have about 7 fields there, if I'm not mistaken, Lyle,
where at?
down at Centennial.
We're down to 5 right
Okay,
now.
but still,
Yeah,
6
right.
one was T-ball and one was coach pitch.
Right.
But
But then
you
we
know,
have-
if you're not maintaining them, they just deteriorate. So we'd have to come back in about 2 years and redo the dirt. So this system, I've seen it and it works really well. Fields percolate. They don't necessarily run off, but in order to have that, so you don't have holes, especially around second base, shortstop and stuff like that, this machine, we do not have a field turf guy for the city. So this doesn't replace the field turf guy, but it does help our people to work fields properly. So I think it's money well spent on this.
So with that in mind, Lyle, how do you regrade a field without disturbing the sod?
Well, there might be just a little bit of disturbing on it. There's things that you can do. You can cut that lip off a little bit, anywhere from 6 to 12 inches off the sod, and then go in there and with a roller pack that down so it has a real nice surface between the infield, the skin infield, and the grass. And then eventually, obviously, if you take that off far enough, you'll have to come back in with some sod, after a couple years and bring it back in.
So you're more concerned about the perimeter of the field, it sounds like, than the field.
Well, a little bit of both, because, obviously if you have an inch of rain, right now, it'll be nice because we have a nice dome fill. Before, it was kind of hard to go in there with their if you've seen them with their screeds, they did nothing but follow those holes and just created bigger holes, especially if they were a little bit wet. They would get in there and they would pull that dirt out of there and create bigger holes in there, and so it was not playable.
How often do you have to regrade those fields?
Well, we're hoping maybe twice a year with the laser guided part of it. And then without the laser part of it, we can go in there and just kind of maintain once in a while, just go in there, because you have a setting on them that you can just go in there and just barely take the top and move it around and fill holes with it.
But I believe, did I understand, Pete, that you brought in a bunch of dirt so did you regrade the whole field then? Or?
We graded all the fields, yes.
And then you
It's a
sodded
conditioner.
them?
What it is, it's a conditioner. It's a fairly absorbent material that they bring in from Colorado that it'll handle, anything from a half to a 1 inch rain.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Brad, you had a question?
I did. Was this budgeted?
This, we were able to pull some money out, what was left for the price of this, because we got a $10,000 grant and a $20,000 grant to offset the price of this. And so we were able to pull out of the budget on this.
Okay, thank you.
Ty?
Well, real quickly, will this have use at the softball fields as well at Cody Park and in the girls complex in addition to the baseball fields?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it'd be more of a use for those fields than it would be for the baseball fields.
And thanks for your efforts with the grant money. That makes it a little easier when 2/3 of it is getting paid for through grant
Very
contributions.
welcome. Other questions or comments?
I'll just make a comment. I think there's more than a cosmetic issue, it's a safety factor for these kids. That lip they could trip and fall. I did receive a complaint one time, about that condition, so I think this is a great thing, and I think I'm in favor of it.
Thank you. Other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve letter H.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Vols to approve letter H. Calling the question. Letter H is approved. Moving on to the regular agenda. Item 2, approve the cost-sharing agreement with Rivers Edge Golf Club LLC and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the cost-sharing agreement with Rivers Edge Golf Club LLC and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Reeker, second by Vols. Lane, you want to tell us what's going on here?
All right, as many of you are well aware, running along the south side of Rodeo Road is a large ditch that's a drainage ditch, and then it cuts across and goes north, south of where Mulligan Meadows is, into the golf course and to the river, and that drains a lot of the street system in that area of town. Last couple of years, we've had some drainage issues where Adams Street is flooded in that area. Mainly because the ditch, as it gets closer to the river, as it goes through the golf course, has gotten overgrown and congested. And being it's both helps the golf course and the city, this is to get that back up to widen it, dredge it out, and so it will drain better, not have those backup issues that we've had the last couple of years into the streets. And so it's really to maintain our storm drainage in that part of town. This would be where the city would share in the cost with Rivers Edge on that project.
Go ahead, Brad.
I saw you recently did Mulligan Meadows right there. Did the city do that, or who did that part?
We did that being where it's more open and it wasn't a matter of disturbing stuff. We don't really have the equipment to go in where we're in between greens and things like that. And so that's why we weren't wanting to go on private property. We went on city property to do that part of it.
So is it because we're facilitating this that we're doing the cost sharing piece of it? Or is it normal for us to do cost sharing in this kind of situation?
In this kind of a situation where it's actually helping city drainage as well and along the area, it makes some sense to do some cost sharing. It's been probably 15 and 20 years since that's been taken care of. So I'm not exactly sure how it was handled years ago.
Gotcha.
Other questions or comments? Ty?
How does this work in conjunction with wetlands laws and requirements?
Good question. I might let Brent answer that question.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. What we'd be looking at with this is it's a drainage structure, and so it'd be maintenance of a drainage facility. It's either been part of the irrigation ditch or the drainage from the state city going through there. So this would be principally maintenance of the existing drainage facility that we have.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Since you're up here anyway, it's a little bit of an unusual contract situation for the city, the way that they're hiring it, we're paying just the way that it's being handled. Do you feel like we have enough, do we have sufficient control or input on the way this is being done? Do you feel comfortable that the way this is being contracted, that the city, you can make sure it's done to your satisfaction?
We've had some discussions on expectations of what we need to have done. I know Lane's communicated that with the golf course, and I think we'll have probably some periodic spot checks through there. We know roughly some grades, elevation improvements that we need to have it function better. So I think we have communicated the needs and expectations in writing of what we're looking for.
Thank you.
Other questions? Go ahead, Nick.
Did we get, or did anybody get bids on this, or where did the 29,000 come from, just out of curiosity?
We received a bid and the golf course went out for a bid. They had a different bid that had a little more work involved with it where they're gonna haul away the dirt and some of the other stuff where the bid we got was just cleaning out the ditch itself and leaving that for the golf course. But we did get bids from multiple contractors on it.
Okay, and just to clarify, this is gonna help the drainage on Adams Street, correct?
Correct.
Awesome, thank you.
Where we've had that lake appear in the
Yeah,
last couple of years,
yeah.
yes.
Okay.
It should help that tremendously.
Perfect.
Other questions or comments? Ed?
Will that have any impact on those dead cottonwood trees at all? Where they probably need to remove some of them.
Where are you talking is? We're not touching those, and that's the golf course. Most of those are on the golf course side, I believe.
I didn't know.
There may be a couple that would get taken out, but that's not really the scope of this project.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 2, please. Item number 2 is passed. Item number 3, adopt resolution approving the removal of stop signs for eastbound and westbound traffic at the intersection of Tabor Avenue and Francis Street, and the placement of stop signs for northbound and southbound traffic at Tabor Avenue and Francis Street, northbound traffic at McCabe Avenue and Phillip Avenue, southbound traffic at McCabe Avenue and Francis Street, and southbound traffic at Westyn Avenue and Francis Street.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the resolution approving the removal of stop signs for eastbound and westbound traffic at the intersection of Tabor Avenue and Francis Street, and the placement of stop signs for northbound and southbound traffic at Tabor Avenue and Francis Street, northbound traffic at McCabe Avenue and Phillip Avenue, southbound traffic at McCabe Avenue and Francis Street, and southbound traffic at Westyn Avenue and Francis Street.
Second.
Motion by Bowles, second by Reeker. Have any discussion on item number 3? Based on the description, it's pretty obvious what we're doing. So, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor. Quickly, how does the transition plan work? In other words, this is a change of habits for some people who use it every day. How do we try to keep things safe through the habit forming process?
I think Brent has a plan for that, but we'll do it. We will do extra signage and some flagging, possibly maybe even some lighting at that area, because it is changing where you stop, especially on Tabor, for sure. Because people are used to now just going barreling through on north and southbound. Now it's going to change out to east and westbound. But there is some plans there for some extra signage for a period of time anyway, until people get used to it.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 3, please. Item number 3 is passed. Item number 4, approve preliminary and final approval of Deep Waters Retreat subdivision located at 2211 North Buffalo Bill Avenue in a B-2 Highway Commercial District to include proposed changes and easement document.
I move to adopt the recommendation by the City Planning Commission for preliminary and final approval of Deep Waters Retreat subdivision to include proposed changes and easement document.
Second.
Motion by McNew, second by Reeker. Discussion on item number 4.
Go ahead, Pete.
Could I have an explanation of why we're subdividing here? Is the applicant here? That's what I thought. Ma'am, if you wouldn't mind.
Good evening, I'm Faylene Hudson. The first reason why we started subdividing was our clinic is on this small portion, and the fees for assessing the frontage to get septic and water were going to be assessed across the entire property. So that was the first reason why we had to divide that down. Plus the bank requires us to have no land attached to that. And then whether good or bad, I was attempting to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And while I had the surveyor out there, I started planning for our future development, which is years out. but it's very hard to get a surveyor, and it was a very long process. We've been working at it since November. So the lot to the north of our clinic is proposed future museum, which is a long ways in the future. And then the middle section is proposed campground. And it's cabins, it's a medical retreat idea where they will come and do medical services. But also it's just campground. So that is why for the subdivision. I would like to bring up that there was discussion about easements at the planning commission, if that's what it's called. So it's been really hard. I'm not a developer. I'm in medicine, 20 years. That's what I like to do. And that's what I'm trying to do here. But it's been really hard to understand like what was required versus just suggestions on easements. And I actually, it's really ugly, but I drew a proposed map. Would you guys like one of what?
That
we're
would be
doing?
awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to have a plan-ish type thing. Thanks.
Thank you.
So our plan all along was really to have cabins along that north line where the tree line is. That is why we were there, for the campsite. So, and then also on the south side, we've already got access to the clinic, a driveway there already, straight to our parking lot. So, and then as you can see, like with our plans, I actually really didn't potentially need easements at all, and they do interfere with my plans. And so I would like to request that all easements be removed at this time. We do have utility already there, and it's, and we have, oh, my road didn't show up very good. There's a road up here also that accesses the campground. So just above the museum will be a road to the campground. So there's access both ways.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a follow-up question?
No, go ahead, yeah.
First, beautiful building. Thank you for
Thank
putting it
you.
up in our community. I don't
Excited to be here.
Yeah, I don't understand why 2 and 3 of this are not one lot versus 2 if you don't want to have the public easements.
Right.
Because lot 3 would be fully landlocked legally then. And so I'm trying to understand if you could walk us through why you want to do it that way.
Sure. So we will. That is a really great discussion, a thought. But we will put a road in through the north side of that museum to access the campground. That is the plan. A personal, private for the campground use road. So there will be access. So that will potentially, we could create that at a later date when we've got it more refined.
Okay. Okay, so
I
so
just don't want people driving behind the cabins or walking behind the cabins. That kind of
Okay.
ruins that aesthetic.
Okay, so the concern with the public easements is that then people can walk their
It's,
dog on them or whatever,
Mhm.
where it's really your long-term plan is to have a driveway.
Yes.
Why do those two need to be separate lots?
they probably don't at this time. It was more for, because in the future they will for the museum idea. And I was probably trying to save dollars because this is all
Mhm.
one family. Anyways, for the future museum. And that was it. And then, you put insurance on where people are, and I wouldn't have to insure that front part because it won't be camping,
Okay,
So,
oh, thank you.
yeah.
Go ahead, Red.
So if we were perfect case,
Sure.
remove all the easements that are currently proposed. And then what if we put an easement on the road that you're already thinking about doing so that there is something to get back? 'Cause you don't want to landlock that back property.
Yeah.
Which could cause problems.
I totally agree with you. I would just like time to figure out where to place that road.
Gotcha. So we couldn't put that easement in at this time for you.
It's just hard to know exactly where you want it, but I do know we have to have it and we want it. We're planning on it. There's no point to having a campground without your road. So,
For sure.
yeah.
Because you can see from a city perspective, let's say we divide this up, we don't put any easements on here. Then you've got that back third lot that's landlocked, somebody else purchases it, and then they're knocking on our door complaining why they don't have access.
Yeah, I do understand that.
Yeah.
I do understand that. And so like if you thought about just doing an easement along here, but I could potentially make it prettier, you know, and make it wind and have trees on the other side. That's just my, you know, this is my multiple generation, you know, plan. So, but yeah, I hear you. And that would be the only, you know, you could do it there. It just could be prettier. I just don't know exactly yet.
And I agree with Ty, beautiful building.
Thank
You
you.
guys did a fantastic
Thank
job
you.
there. It's great.
Lifetime dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rod?
Go ahead, Jim.
No, I guess, are you asking us to make a motion tonight to remove that easement and then pass this resolution? Is that,
Yes, please. So I may move on with moving into my building.
we need to make an amendment to do that at your request?
Yes, please.
Hold on, Rod.
The lot 2 at the museum and the campground, are you eventually gonna need water for both those? So the foot frontage on that part would be paid since you're
At the later date when we develop
at
it.
a later date?
Yes.
Is that the plan?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then how would you get the water to the campground? Is there a water main or something that runs down there? Or does it have to go across that property? Or does anybody know the answer to that?
There's been chatter of discussion, but I do think we have options here and here both, but that's not my realm to
Okay.
answer.
Okay.
Reggie?
I'd love to hear from Judy on this subject before we entertain a motion to change the easements with what Planning Commission did, if you don't mind.
Thanks, Faylene.
Judy Clark, Development Director, Mayor, City Council. The proposal to eliminate all of the easements, you would actually be breaking subdivision regulations. You cannot, you would be breaking subdivision regulations because you cannot landlock a lot. Lots have to have access to public water, sewer, and public improved roads. Now, can the access be private? Yes, that can be private. It does muddy the waters a little bit, but it can be private. But to entertain the idea of eliminating all of the accesses and landlocking the lots, you're breaking subdivision regulations. Just wanted to tell you that.
Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Go ahead, Rod.
Well, if we had them put an easement along, I think that'd be the north side behind that museum along that property line, and the easement went up to that property, we wouldn't care if she made it winding or whatever. We'd just have the easement to go to that property. Is that right?
Correct. And even if you pass something, the way that you pass it, it's always changing. I mean, you can come in and re-subdivide, you can come in and take easements out, you can put new easements in. It's just when you're doing it, you do have to follow the subdivision regulations for the initial
So does
start of it.
planning think that easement needs to go all the way up or just to the edge of that property? where
Planning
the-
requested their recommendation was to put an easement all the way around every lot that is in the subdivision, plus the remaining, 20 acres, 26 acres, whatever the remaining acreage is to the east, just to ensure that they're gonna have access to city water, sewer, and streets.
And if she had the easements put up, she can still control the access. It's not a public right of way walking. She has access.
We would have to, sorry,
No.
didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you.
I'm just
But yeah,
asking.
we would have to change that on the plat because I believe the plat says public access would be dedicated as public. We would have to change that to private easement.
But we could do that?
Mhm.
Okay. Ed?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. So I know in one other location, Judy, we have a similar circumstance where a business has several motorhomes that have sewer and water tied into the city. And they have one water tap where they take the water to the motorhome pads. And then the sewer dumps are tied into two trunk lines that tie into the city sanitary sewer. So all of that infrastructure, the water lines, the sewer lines, are on their property. So they don't have to have any city access because it's not city sewer, it's not city water. So having said that, why can't we do the same thing here?
My guess is if I know of which one that you're talking about, it's one singular lot. The problem with this one, your front two lots on this one that abut Buffalo would work. It's that third lot getting access to that third lot for public access, because once you put in a lot line, you now have landlocked that property to any access. Subdivision code says you have to have access to city water, sewer, and improved street.
So I know the concern is if this property sells, how are they gonna get sewer and water in there to somebody else? That whole east side could have an easement along the east side of that property. If I understand correctly, the lay of the land here, the water runs to the east, so it would make sense if we were gonna bring sewer line in, and we would bring it in from the east and go west. And so why couldn't that easement be put in there at that time when it's needed? Or if it's needed? And the reason I ask that question, when I look at this whole site, these people don't have a real well-defined idea of what they want to do with it. And I understand landlocking. I understand personal property rights too. And if they put a building out there someplace that lessens the value of the property when they sell it, then shame on them. Or maybe where they put that building, the guy that looks at it says, that's perfect. That's exactly where I wanted that building. We can't look into the future and see how this is going to play out. We can't. But these people have a plan, and their plan doesn't call for that. And personally, I think we need to accommodate them to the best of our ability. I don't, there's got to be a way around this, I think, and I don't know what it is. Maybe we make lots 1 and 2 one lot, and that would probably take care of that problem. I have a real problem taking the street all the way from east to west on that parcel when I've seen what they have planned for the future, because that's going to divide that whole property into two halves, basically the south and the north. And I think the plan is, from what I've seen on one of the proposals that I think the city had developed, was to tie that into Red Fox Lane for one and 22nd Street for the other one. But that kind of interferes totally from what I think they want to do with the development. I'm not sure why these easements have to be put in here now. And I think you said they can be put in later. Why do we have to do this now? When the property is going to be, if the property is going to be sold, and the guy that wants to buy it says, hey, I need a sewer and water easement here, then that's going to be part of the contingency of the sale. Why can't that be done at that time?
And you probably could get away with removing some of those easements, but again, you have to go back to the subdivision regulations that say that all lots that are created have to have access to city water, sewer, and a road. So that's why in putting those access easements in and those utility easements in gets us to the subdivision regulations. And I think it is, at least my job is to try and protect the city's interests and the landowner's interests in future development. And that's what we try to do in planning is foresee the future. And I understand we can't, but you've got to kind of look out as to what could possibly be there at some point.
And Ed, I would just add in, and I don't discount anything you said, but we spent a fair amount of time, usually Lane, Bill, and I, fixing things that people didn't think through very well 30, 40, 50 years ago. I mean, we have not too far from this location, we have an area where the city has a platted street, but somebody built a fence across it. It's been there for years. I mean, doesn't hurt anything, but now the property has changed hands, and the new owners are not happy about that situation. I could probably, if I sat here and thought about it for a minute, I could probably name off 5 or 6 others that are situations like that. And that's the planning department's effort, is to try to keep us, well, the people that are sitting here 20 years from now, out of those situations.
And I understand that very well.
Yeah.
I just come back again to, these people have a plan on how they'd like to develop the property. And if we start chopping it up with easements, then their plan is destroyed. I don't like that idea. I don't like it at all.
But it's never really destroyed because they can go back and change it. So I would never say the plan's destroyed.
Well, if we can go back and change it, then why can't we do the easements later?
Because again, you have to meet subdivision regulations, which you have to have access when you create something now.
So we maybe can't remove all of the easements in the future, is what you're saying.
Depending on how the plans change, as long as when you create a new lot, you have access to water, sewer, and the road, then you can. As long as all lots have access, yes, you could change it.
Judy, can I ask a follow-up question on that?
Sure.
I still don't understand this whole lot 2 and 3 and why they're not combined. So wouldn't that solve everything? I mean, if later they want lot 3 to be peeled out, would that be an administrative
So-
replat?
Yes, the easiest thing to do would be an administrative replat, which would section off the lot where her current building is, that south lot. Do that lot, be done with it. The rest of the lots all have access because there's no other lots. There's just 2 lots at that point, her lot and then the remaining parcel. It would have access. You've got access to water, sewer, street. Everything's perfect. You're done.
I mean, my opinion is this is getting way overcomplicated. I mean, I completely understand why they wouldn't want to easement up this property. But the issue's that back lot, this early stage of development. But I would hope, I appreciate what she was saying about the surveyor too. You would hope then that could be useful in the future as a starting point for an easy subdivision to take that into, because the problems that backside, I mean, I get that they're, I don't say tricking the system, but they're lowering their connection costs by subdividing it. I don't have any problem with that. That's a big enough parcel to the north. It's a great project for the community. Everything seems fair, no issues with that. But this just to me seems so overcomplicated by adding that. Imagine, think of a mortgage lender. If this is platted, having that third lot, and if they needed to foreclose on it, they're either not going to know it's bad collateral or it's going to be bad collateral as under the proposal. Because if you had to foreclose that lot to get your money back, and I don't know if they intend to mortgage it, but if they did, how are you going to get to it? How are you going to sell it to anybody? And so to tie back to Judy's point, you almost have to put so many easements on it that I just don't understand what the reason is to do that versus keeping that all as one lot.
I think you're absolutely right, Ty. 1 and 2 could be one lot.
Well,
And the back
2 and
one-
3.
Two and
2
3.
and
2 and 3.
Yeah.
Back lot
Yeah.
2.
Well, but correct me if I'm wrong. Lot 3 will have access to sewer and water on the far east boundary.
There's another lot in between there.
There's no street access.
Yeah, there's a whole nother lot to the east of that.
Kind of a
before you
row
get
of
to the streets.
lots.
So Ty, I actually see 2 solutions. I agree with you. If you combine 2 and 3, that takes care of the problem. The other way would be to run an easement along the north side of lot 2, just up to the lot 3.
Exactly.
Either one of those would
Yeah.
solve the problem. I'd like to hear from Faylene if she wants to weigh in on this, which direction you'd rather go.
Yeah, I've debated, thanks guys, I've debated both of those also, like just backing out of the whole thing and doing administrative. But if I have a property line, and I can ensure where the campers will be, right, then I'm not responsible for people on here doing crazy things. So, I guess I'd probably prefer, can I consult my husband?
Take your time. We're here all night.
2 and
trust me.
3 together, just do that. It sounds like 2 and 3 together sounds like the,
Just get rid of the.
Uh-huh.
So all we're doing is
Yeah.
peeling out 1.
Yeah.
So we would create lot 1.
and then 2 would be the 2 combined.
Yep.
Mhm. Okay, that sounds good.
Do we need time?
Hold on.
It would be more than the 2 combined, because it'd have to include the entire eastern part of the
That would be
property.
3.
Lot 4, right?
Well, that's not listed on part of the subdivision, but to Judy's point, what we're trying to do, what the planning commission was trying to do, was ensure access to all lots, including the portion of Miss Hudson, right? Miss Hudson's property that's clear to the east. So like when you're seeing this picture, her drawing here, there's still all of the property that she owns to the east. So what we're saying is just have lot one, and then the rest of it is just the remainder of the property.
Yeah, right,
Mhm.
yeah.
Peel out.
Right, we're on the
Yeah.
same page.
We create a lot one. Should we table this and have planning redraw that up, or do you think we can accomplish that in a motion?
Judy?
Yes, thank you, Judy.
I'm gonna stand by. Do you care if I stand by?
Honestly, you could probably just pull it from the agenda because the way you're talking about doing it, it would be administrative, which means it wouldn't come back here to you guys anyway.
Aileen, is that okay with you?
That's fine.
Okay.
That would be the simplest. I think that would be the simplest. way to do
understand,
it.
yeah.
Otherwise, we're gonna have to take some time to figure out how we can amend things tonight. And that would take some time for me to sit back and ask the mayor to give me a good 10, 15, even 20 minutes to be able to come up with that, so.
Sure. I guess my only question is, say we were trying to recoup some dollars and park people for Nebraska Land Days on the campground before it's a campground. And I was trying to insure that because you probably should insure that. Well, now it's a whole lot I'm insuring for us, but I can section off. So it's not probably a city council question, but that's
It's
what
not, but
decides.
it's
this
an insurance
decision.
question and it's not gonna matter. It's gonna be like $100
Okay.
for a
All right.
liability policy for vacant ground, so.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Ed, you had a question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, okay, if I understand this drawing that I have here, and I don't think the rest of you guys maybe have it, is there sewer and water on Mills Avenue? That's the far east edge of the property, right?
I'll have to consult a map real quick.
There is some sewer and water back in that cul-de-sac like area, and then there also is some that runs up Sheridan to the far east of that, but it's in that street.
So if that's the case, why wouldn't that property have sewer and water on the east end of it? Which would satisfy the requirement of having it not be landlocked.
It needs street access.
Mills is a street access.
There's only partial easement there where it comes into, so it's not a full street easement if I recall right on that area. That's why they would need the extra easement, because it's only partial.
Ed, I think the difference is that based on this drawing, it's creating this lot 3 right here, and then there's a whole nother lot out here. So it would still leave lot 3 landlocked even though there's something out here.
But if we combine 1 and
1 and 3, it solves the problem.
go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Item is pulled from the agenda. It will be handled administratively. Item number 5, third reading and action to adopt ordinance number 4248 to amend the City of North Platte Code of Ordinances, Section 156.144, special design criteria for RM mobile home parks to add G4. Laying the ordinance.
Ordinance number 4248, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, amending chapter 156, zoning section 156.144, special design criteria for RM mobile home park, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 4248 to amend the City of North Platte Code of Ordinances, Section 156.144, special design criteria for R-M mobile home parks to add parentheses G, parentheses 4 on final reading.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Dye. So third reading on this item. Do we have any discussion? Ed?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Judy sent me some information. Well, we talked about the helicoil anchoring system. I guess I'm kind of curious, how is that helicoil actually tied into the building structure to anchor the home down?
Mr. Bullington, are you familiar with that?
Roger Bullington, 3935 Westgate Road, Grand Island. Underneath these manufactured homes, you have the steel beams, and then the helical piers. You drill them down in there, and then they have a plate system that attaches them to the steel beams on the manufactured home. So it's a plate system.
So there's no strap or anything that goes over the building?
In the other, where we're doing potentially can do the concrete ones, or it's essentially like a sonotube and that, then at that point, there's some angles and structures, and there's some like strapping that goes on that solution. But I believe on the helical piers, it's a plate system. It's a bolted plate system.
So the concrete piers would have some kind of a strap that went over the whole building to tie it?
No, not over the whole building, just over the steel beams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Okay.
the same way with the tie plates
Okay,
from the
all
hill.
right.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions or comments? Nick?
Just out of curiosity, so we already have an ordinance on the proper way to tie mobile homes down. Does this take the place of that, or is there going to be multiple ways that these are going to have to be tied down now?
It's adding an additional option.
So they're going to have to follow two or three different ordinances on how they're tied down with this taking place?
I'm watching a look on Judy's face. So yeah, I believe the intent was to provide an alternative option. You could do it multiple ways.
So is this going to be the only way that it's going to be tied down, or is it going to be tied down by the other ordinance as well?
So it's HUD standards. They have a 1996 HUD standard that talks about how you tie them down. And I'm out of my realm of expertise because I'm not the building inspector, but the building inspector currently uses that HUD 1996 manufactured home tie down standards, anchoring standards. What we're doing here is allowing another option that would still fit under that 1996 code. It's just they're more updated. You know, as years go by, they have different types of systems that still meet the same standard. So no, they're not going to have to meet 3 or 4 different standards. They choose one. All the standards will meet the 1996 guidelines.
Is the language going to reflect that? Or, I mean, is it going to be confusing for building inspectors to go in and say you have to abide by all 3 of these ordinances on how you tie down?
No, I believe Dave was at the last meeting. He has absolutely no issue with it.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Real quick on that. So the reason we're getting rid of the storm shelters is because you have an option to do this helix, tie down thing. Moving forward, if in the future, if there's another mobile home park, will they have to have storm shelters if they don't do the helix tie down? Is that how that's going to work?
That's the way that this reads. We're not actually taking that shelter out of there. We're saying if you don't want to do this shelter, then you have the option of doing this.
That was my understanding, but I wasn't
Yep.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 5. Item number 5 is passed. Item number 6 begins a long string of public hearings. So, In a moment, we'll open the public hearing to consider action on a resolution regarding the City of North Platte Newberry Village redevelopment plan pursuant to redevelopment law on property described as lots 1 and 2 Newberry Village subdivision, North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska. Officially opening the public hearing on this item. And I would ask Mr. Bullington to come up and kind of talk through the project, please, or Lauren, you can come as well if you'd like. Sorry, Lauren, I would have used your last name, but you're recently married and I couldn't remember your new last name. So.
Yeah, joining me tonight is Lauren Ihusen, new married name, Lauren Maddie. So I wanted to introduce her. She's part of our development and construction team. So what we're trying to do here is create a neighborhood of that range of housing that's in the lower price. And so, gosh, it's been probably 18 months ago when we got approached by a few community leaders and city people to try and put a development together to hit that market sector. And so this is kind of what we've come up with in finding that piece of property, and since, completing the engineering, which is now just, we're waiting on permits to come back. But what it is, 247 houses that are called manufactured houses. They're essentially single-wide modular homes. It's pretty similar to the Mulligan Meadows, but those are double wides. And these are meant to be or could be moved. And so these aren't, it's not under the property taxes like a fixed house is, so to speak. It's called, it'll be a tax on real property. It's like a personal tax on real property. And so essentially what we've got is a couple of three phases here where we're putting in all the roads and infrastructure. And the roads will be private, the infrastructure will be public. And so we've got almost $12 to $13 million worth of just infrastructure. It says $7 million in there, but that didn't include the private streets because those weren't TIF eligible. We've got so much TIF eligible expenses that it really didn't matter anyway, because of the fact we're not creating a big increment. And so really the TIF that we're asking for, not a lot of it's from that whole lot 1, because it's just land and the improvements on it. There's really not going to be any structures on it. We'll have like a maintenance shed and then like a rental, or leasing or property management structure. But those were pretty small, and we'd like to get started on that this year. In fact, we're hopefully, once we get the design drawings back and get the state permits back this week, we'll put it out for proposals, primarily local subcontractors, to complete the dirt work and complete the infrastructure and to do the paving. One thing that's, we don't want a lot of maintenance and that sort. So all these private streets will be concrete. And so we have a concrete road down the middle, and then we got parking perpendicular to that. And every house will have 3 to 4 parking spots available for that house. So we won't have, we're not going to allow anything off the paved structure as far as storage of junk vehicles or anything like that. The other thing that we'll have is we'll have some covenants, restrictive covenants, so that we can keep the property up in a fashion that will reflect the investment that we're putting into this development. One thing which, if we'd sell all 247 houses, the average house sale will be about $150,000. So that would be equal to about $37 million worth of housing sales. And so if you really add that to our cost, the cost of our land and our infrastructure privately or publicly. This is over a $50 million investment that would be if it was completely all built out. So it is substantial. It's to a sector that, from what we're told, is really needed in this community. And so we're just asking for support for this TIF so that we can create the whole neighborhood with the amenities. We'll have dog park, kids playground, and there's sidewalks and that sort through the whole campus.
Thanks, Roger. I appreciate it. We may invite you back for questions at some point. So, Mr. Bacon, since this is a TIF application, would you give us the high points on the application, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike Bacon, Counsel for the Redevelopment Authority. This proposed plan has been in front of Planning and Zoning. They recommended approval back to the Redevelopment Authority, and they recommended approval. The redeveloper is Frateria Ventures, North Platte LLC, wholly owned by Chief Industries. It is a TIF project that is basically has two components and several phases. Component one is creating the, I'll use vernacular terms, trailer park or modular park. All of the homes will be individually owned, but not owned by Chief Industries, so it'll be homeowners. There will not be separate lots that are deeded off to people. They'll just be rented. And this was information that wasn't apparent in the application. They're asking for tax increment financing. They don't get much of a bump on what is essentially bare lots with nice infrastructure in place. So they're asking that in lot 2, they be able to build some commercial structures, a C-store, and perhaps a small strip mall. And the TIF for that, as well as the TIF for building the site, be used to pay down some of the costs here. This application, they're used to in Grand Island, where also represent, they have a 0% TIF bond. In other words, they don't get any interest on their TIF. It's just a number. The net present value of that, because of interest, is significantly smaller. So in the way we work here, the TIF bond value would be, my guess is somewhere in 600,000, maybe more, maybe less, depending on how fast they develop the property. So this is a small TIF project, but a large possible investment. The issue on that is taxation. Taxation is only under the statute 182147 is only on the real property value. They're not going to develop all 3 phases right out of the gate. They're just going to put in the infrastructure and the roads for phase 1 to start with. And they would like to get the TIF off of that to start. And then when they put phase 2, which is another lower cost investment for the second street, have that as a separate tax lot. And then on the third phase, separate tax lot to do that. In order to do that, they're going to ask that, as part of the contract, that they have what's called a real estate condominium, because each one of these lots, just like in the last discussion, needs to have a way of separating the taxes and separating the services that go there. So to do that, they're going to ask that we create those 3 divisions on the park itself. They could do a subdivision, but each one would have to have a driveway to the street and all of those things. So that's one way around that. there was a question on taxation. These trailer homes should be subject to sales tax from the manufacturer and subject to, they'll get a title to the home, like your boat. We intend, if this is approved by the council, to have a redevelopment contract that addresses a number of things. Some of these parks can deteriorate rather rapidly. This is going to be owned on a long-term basis by chief. Nevertheless, we're going to require restrictive covenants that can be enforced by the redevelopment authority and or the city council to make sure that it's held to highest standards. Number two, because there's concern in the Facebook world that somehow personal property tax is going to be captured from those homes and to pay the TIF. That is not the case. The statute specifically says that only the real property taxes can be used to pay the TIF bond. So the taxes on the personal property go to the normal taxing entities to support the city, school, NRD, community college, and so forth. Let's see. In terms of the impact on the school system, it's very difficult to figure out what the student load would be based on the current statistics from your community. In the census, you have about 0.3 people above a standard family in the home. So this could maybe generate 50 students. It could maybe generate more. If you think it's all going to be used by new employees to Sustainable Beef, I would tell you, based on my experience in over 70 communities, you may be surprised and see some Cadillacs and some old folks sitting there, and it's a nice retirement facility. So you can't predict the impact of the on the school system. They are thinking about $84,000 in TIF generation once it is fully developed. It's not going to be fully developed right out of the gate, and it may never get there because, you know, if they don't sell. The other piece is 247 modular homes might scare some folks all in one spot. May think that's too much for your community. Did some checking, and online in Lexington, which is less than half your size, there were like 260 mobile homes and trailers. So it does meet that requirement. Other than that, be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bacon. We'll call you back during the council discussion since this is a public hearing. Thank you. Okay, if anyone else would like to make a comment on this issue, please approach the microphone, tell us who you are, where you live.
Council members, Gary Pearson, President of the North Platte Area Chamber Development Corporation. Chamber's located at 502 South Dewey. I live at 2708 Maris Lane. I was one of the people that twisted the arms of the Chief Industry folks. As we all know, anybody that's familiar with Chief Industries, they do multi-million-dollar projects all over the country. And this type of development wasn't on their bucket list. But I deal with our industry leaders almost every day in different capacities. Certainly, we've enjoyed the fruits of your labor and what you've done to make things happen in this community with the great economic growth that we've had. We have well over 1,000 people commuting, and the actual number may scare some people, how many people are actually commuting here for jobs. And I'd argue that probably that number has doubled in the last 18 months. We've been able to absorb a lot of people that were looking for jobs or had lost their jobs. And so it's a wonderful thing for our North Platte employers who some of them finally getting up to the workforce capacity that they'd long hoped to get there. We reached out to Chief because of their association with Bonneville Homes. They've been a wonderful partner for us up at Mulligan Meadows. It's a chamber-owned subdivision up there. And then the chamber-owned Twin Rivers Business Park, where they put some speculative commercial buildings in that are almost all of them full now, with other businesses that were able to come here as a result of what they've done. I would also tell you that as great a job as we've done on housing as a community as a whole, everybody working together, a lot of that is rental housing, multifamily and so forth, to get people actually to put down roots, and we can hopefully keep them here long term. There's nothing like single family home ownership. This opens the door for a lot of people who have lost that opportunity just because of the price of construction, price of homes today, and it opens that door wide open. And it really would be a great first home for a lot of people, maybe a retirement home for people retiring. We know the developer, they put their name on something that's going to be first class, and it's going to be done right. The economic impact of people living here as opposed to people commuting here for jobs is probably 3 or 4 times greater economic impact on the community. And their own individual incomes will go up. National average is 20% if you live in the same community where you have your job as opposed to commuting to that job. Your personal discretionary income will rise by about 20%. Can't underemphasize enough that these homes will go immediately onto the tax rolls and benefit the local government subdivisions. Certainly if that piece of property sits out there for the next 30 years, you know, basically just being what it is today, you're not going to have that additional tax benefit for the government entities here. And as you've already heard, the TIF request is pretty minimal. And then also just like to reiterate that we haven't built a mobile home park in over 50 years in North Platte. We're long overdue, and this project did get unanimous votes out of the Planning Commission and the Community Redevelopment Authority. And thank you for everything you do.
Thanks, Gary. Would anyone else like to make a comment? If so, please approach the microphone. Hi, Donna.
Hi, how are you? Donna Tryon, 820 South Bryan. I just have a few comments to make. It's my understanding that the people that are traveling or being bused here to work in the plant from Lexington, they're unable to sell their homes there. Their families are involved in the town of Lexington, and that I don't know how many actually want to move to North Platte. I'm concerned about overbuilding here. I'm also a little bit concerned about families, children in our school district, even though this will be like personal property tax. I get that. But the Horseshoe division over there is a TIF project. There's going to be children there going to our school, and that development, the property tax won't be going to schools. And let's see, there's got to be one more thing I'm concerned about. If this development doesn't complete, is there an ending? I mean, what's going to happen? If they can't complete the development as they propose, what will happen to that land, I guess? And then the other thing I hope that you consider is what kind of commercial plan do they have along Phillip? I'm assuming that's where it would go, and also the traffic that it will entail on Phillip. Phillip's a pretty busy street already, and so I just want you all to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make a comment? If so, please approach the microphone.
Council, my name is David Briggs from 1009 South Dewey, and I also have the pleasure of serving as CEO of Sustainable Beef. And I did also approach DJ probably a year and a half ago on this topic, and thankful they're willing to come to this community and put in this level of housing at this price point. We currently employ about 40% of our 1,000 employees are coming from out of town to come to work here. The governor has helped us with a couple buses to help us for a short time out of time. That's going to go through the end of the year. And then that we'll reevaluate that. We think at the time that ends, that a lot of those employees that are now driving, basically taking 2 hours of their day to commute, an hour each way, will seriously consider relocating here. And we really, as a Sustainable Beef, would prefer they live in North Platte. In snowstorms, just much better employee engagement if you live here in our community. So we strongly support this project. I think the price point is good for our employees. And I think it's just applaud Chief Industries for wanting to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make a comment?
Sophia Klein, 1003 East 4th Street. I would agree with probably everybody in North Platte that we do need affordable housing here. I'm not necessarily against this project, but I did watch the Planning Commission meeting and I did watch the CRA meeting on this. And I did do a Facebook video about that meeting, and I did encourage people to watch both of those meetings. And I did a little research myself, and I will tell you that I can not reply to every message that I have currently on my phone because there is so many of them. And there are people that have had completed plans and financing completely together that have been denied for grants and funding because it wasn't something that our city was looking for and never even got the opportunity to be at a planning commission meeting, having their plan completed. So part of the reason that I am running for Ward 1 is for small businesses and making sure that everybody has a voice, and that if you do get grant funding and be considered for TIF, that everybody is treated the same. So I'm asking you to make sure this plan is complete and that they are ready to do this and deserve this funding at this point, because I think a lot of eyes are watching tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else like to make a comment?
I move we close public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Bowles, second by McNew to close public hearing. Calling the question on closing the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Council will now consider item number 6, which is action on a resolution regarding the City of North Platte Newberry Village redevelopment pursuant to the redevelopment law on property described as lots 1 and 2, Newberry Village subdivision, North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the resolution as presented in the council materials and approval of the City of North Platte Newberry Village redevelopment plan and approval of related actions.
Second.
Motion by Lucas, second by Vols. Before we get started, since there's been quite a bit of discussion in the public about what exactly sorts of taxes might appear in this neighborhood development by chief, several people actually reached out to our assessor, Julie Stinger, and she very kindly sent us, Lane and I, an email this afternoon. And it's rather long, so I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but I'm just going to read the parts that are sort of relevant to this discussion, because it's a good example of why context is so important, because we use these terms like real property, real personal property, and in certain contexts, some of those mean the same thing. In other contexts, they have slightly different meanings. And as we get into these discussions, it's kind of important. And so from the assessor's perspective, she says that, so the owner of the land will not own the homes being brought in. So that means that in this case, Prateria Ventures will own the property. Mr. Bullington confirmed that, so did Mr. Bacon a moment ago. Therefore, these homes would be considered an improvement on leased land. And many of you are probably familiar with how the land at surrounding Lake Maloney works. By and large, that land is owned by NPPD, and the folks that own homes on that have a lease, in essence, on that land, and then they own the home that is the property. So this would be a highly similar scenario. They would each have their own parcel ID number and separate real property assessment for that home only, not any land value. And when she says they there, she's referring to the owner of one of these homes. So if I decided I wanted to move out there and I purchased one of these homes, I asked Ms. Singer, what would happen? Would I get a bill? Would I get a property tax bill every year? What would happen? She said, yes, it works exactly like any other home. You get a property tax bill. And in this particular case, the plan is that those property taxes collected from the value of those homes would not be used to pay the TIF bond. They would go directly into the system just as any other property tax does today. The only taxes that would be used to pay the TIF bond in this scenario would be the increment created from the property itself. That's what Mr. Bullington described when he said they're going to add roads, infrastructure, that sort of thing. Whatever the value of the land that increases from that effort, that increment could be used against the TIF bond. But the value of the homes in this scenario, the taxes generated, the property taxes, it's actually the property tax assessed on real property. In this case, that's the exact legal term, would then go directly to the county, the schools, the city, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been talked about quite a bit on social media, highly misunderstood. I thought it was probably good to clear it up right now so that in any discussion, we don't have any debate. She goes on to say these taxes are separate taxes from the land and would not be part of the TIF project's taxes. So, even though coming to city council tonight, you probably were not expecting a clarification or a learning session on different types of property, but the primary difference is that real property does not depreciate like homes. You know, generally speaking, unless our homes, something terrible happens to them, they appreciate in value. Personal property, as directly defined by the IRS tax code, depreciates in 5 to 7 years. And most of us who own businesses or run businesses would think of personal property as computers, farm equipment, fencing, you know, different things like that that you would use to run a business. On this particular development, those homes will be real property. The property taxes generated by the taxes on those real property will go directly to the city, the county, the schools, et cetera, just as any normal piece of property would occur anywhere else in the community. Okay, end of speech for the moment. Thank you. What questions or comments do we have on this item? Brad?
When this initially came through, we talked about adding to the plat, the fact that they can only have a mobile home that's a year or 2 years older. Did that get accomplished? Is that in place?
They'll be all have to be new. We're not gonna allow any use.
Right, but is that being handled through a covenant or is it through the plat?
Roger, would you come up to the microphone, please? The folks at home can't hear you when you're standing back there.
We're still working on the covenants and that, but I'm sure it'll be included in there because that, with our vertical integration, how this works from a financial standpoint, the development wouldn't work without us hitting the different profit pools with sister divisions. And so that's why we're going to maintain that they all got to be Bonneville homes manufactured and they're new. So we will include that in the covenants. So then that way, if it transpires down to further things, that it'll stay in the covenants on that property.
So, and I trust what you're saying there. While you're the owner of this, the covenant will be in place, and I don't have a problem with that. But here's the issue. If it doesn't actually get on the plat, it doesn't transfer to the next owner. Or if the covenant transfers to the next owner, that owner could change the covenant. And so then it just becomes any other, mobile park home, essentially. So we had a long discussion about this, and I thought it was decided that we were going to put it on the plat.
I am not aware of that.
Mr. Bacon, you had discussed some options for addressing this issue.
The having covenants generally can be enforced by other property owners that adjoin you, and since there's going to be no other property owners that adjoin them, the term covenants probably is not a useful term. What we did on the development mall was to put covenants in or restriction on the redevelopment contract that says you're going to maintain it at the highest standards. We've done that on several malls that I've worked on. And so we're going to look at doing the same thing as part of the redevelopment contract, that if they do sell it off, those provisions are going to be recorded in a notice of redevelopment contract saying you have to maintain it at the highest standards. My intent or recommendation to the redevelopment authority is going to be that those end up being enforceable by the redevelopment authority and or the city, very much like we did with sustainable beef on the smell standards and those sorts of things, so that they follow the real estate and not follow the owner. So
The problem with that solution, though, is the redevelopment contract only lasts 15 years.
we can have provisions that extend past the 15-year TIF period. That would be my intent, is that those things stick to the dirt. And there's a way to do that. So, yeah.
When will we see that language?
Well, we'll work on it if the council approves it within a few weeks.
And it'll come back to this council?
No, it'll be at the redevelopment authority level.
So we won't even see it?
Well, you'll certainly be able to get a copy of it and weigh in on it, yeah. Our job is to protect you all, so.
So we can, as a council, we can recommend any provisions that would need to be in that
Absolutely.
contract, and then if they're not there,
Yeah.
we can.
You can make your approval subject to whatever conditions you wish.
But I thought we already done that. During our zoning conversation, we were going to put it on the plat. That was what was discussed here. And you can go back and watch it. That was what we talked about. So I thought we'd already covered that, and then to come find out it's changed. So
Well, what specific language were we gonna put on the plat?
something along the lines that no mobile home older than a year old or 2 years old could be placed on this. So moving forward into the future, then there would always be new homes being placed on there, and it wouldn't be revert just to a regular, mobile home park was the concern.
So there isn't any reason why we couldn't do that in addition, is that correct?
We can, that provision can be put in a restriction in the form of an easement granted to the public, which gives you teeth. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Roger, you wouldn't have any issue with that, would you?
I don't believe so. That's our intent.
Okay. Okay.
And my concern isn't with you, it's not, but you sell it 10 years down the road, then we got a new owner that does a new thing, so.
Good point.
Okay, thank you.
Do we need to do an
Go ahead.
amendment now?
No, tonight is just approval of the redevelopment plan and the resolution that's been presented, because in this stage of the process, the council's responsibility is to make certain findings that are laid out in that resolution. And so I think it's good to have the discussion and everything, but we can't put that into the contract yet, because the contract is something, like Mr. Bacon said, will come forward later.
I actually thought it had been done, so I was just clarifying when I asked
And
that question.
I was trying to recall, and I don't want to speak out of turn either, but I couldn't remember where things stood with a plat for you either. So
We, we definitely did discuss that in the last time, but I think the exact form of this was a little bit amorphous at that point, what the project was gonna look like. Anyway, not to invalidate the city attorney's point, but if there's anything that they would like to see in the contract, tonight would be a good night to bring it up. That way Mr. Bacon can include it in the first version and we're not, extending this process any longer than necessary. So,
If I may, Mayor, that's a good suggestion, and that'll be incorporated in anything that the redevelopment authority considers. So, and the terms of that contract are going to be negotiated between the redevelopment authority, who essentially represents the city, and the developer, so that it's not so onerous that it doesn't work for them, but it protects the interest, so that it doesn't deteriorate. So, and the new manufacturer is a good standard to use. I think that's fairly understandable. So.
That's what's been stated anyway, so the intent.
all right, Mr. Eaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I recall, we also had another stipulation that we were going to require as that there would be no rentals. These homes would be owned by the people that lived in them.
That may be the case. I don't recall that one, but I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't recall it.
I guess part of the rationale I think that we went through was, if somebody owns a home, they're more likely to take care of it and the yard and the maintenance and everything, as opposed to having a tenant in there.
They don't intend to rent, they intend to sell, so that it is owned. So this is not going to be a rental setting at all.
So is that going to be in a document, Mr. Bacon, or what? How?
We'll take all suggestions. And again, it's got to be something that they'll agree to, and they may need to rent some to get prime the pump for a limited period of time, but those types of covenants are certainly understandable. They're looking at spending $17 million to build this up over time, so it has to work for them. Anything else? Good suggestions all.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple things in terms of suggestions. Just to rehash, I recall our conversations about the plat and all that, and my recollection was they were agreeable to that at the time. I will tell you, if that was a requirement, I would have voted against it because I think it's too intrusive of property rights long over eternity. I would hope that in their covenants and in the redevelopment agreement we'd have that. But I think of situations like, well, what if a 5-year-old unit burns down and the proceeds from insurance only allow somebody to replace it with a 3-year-old unit? Now all of a sudden we got a problem with this being on the plat, things like that. Or if Pete purchased a unit and wanted to rent it to their son or daughter, well, is that non-owner occupied? Is it renter? And so it's funny how we're talking about easements and all these other things, and we're talking about property rights, and then when we have the ability to negotiate a TIF contract, all of a sudden we lose our thoughts on property rights a little bit. But at the same time, if you're going to get $1 million from the city in TIF reimbursements, there's benefits to the community to go with that. And so I think we just got to keep a level head with that. And I'm excited about this project. Some things that I've communicated to the CRA and one to Mr. Bacon that are important to me is I think we need to watch the time frame on the tranching of the TIF bond. 5 or 6 year period to where this thing has to be active, so it's not strung out for 25 or 30 years. I think deserves consideration. I think requiring that the destination of the mobile home is the park for sales tax purposes, so city sales tax is collected. I wouldn't imagine this is chief's intent, but I don't really want a dealership set up in the county, and all of a sudden they happen to figure out a way to get around the city sales tax. I'm not saying that's their intent, but I think we should be protective of that in our redevelopment agreement. And then making sure that the development department feels good about our easements and whatnot on Bicentennial, because I don't think there's any question that at some point, Bicentennial is going to be important and improvement in the community. So, I'm all for owner occupied and I'm all for new units, absolutely, because I think that's what's going to make this a great project. But you do have to think about things that can pop up you put something on a plat that's going to be there 50 and 60 years from now.
Mr. McNew.
Thank you. I think the main concern is what is this park going to look like 30 or 40, 50 years from now? Because we already see the aftermath of how things can go if they're not well kept. So I don't think the concern is now. I think the concern is down the road. And, you know, like you said, Ty, when they are looking at TIF funds, I think it is our job to, you know, kind of help guide that on what that's going to look like and what we want that to look like as well. I think Phillip is a concern. I think that we need to look at Phillip Street and then Bicentennial, because when they get the 4-lane on Newberry, you're not going to be able to turn north onto Newberry. You're going to only be able to go south. So that's going to divert traffic back to the west and then either down Bicentennial over to 4th Street or wherever. So I think we need to be diligent about that. I guess I have two questions. So who's paying for Phillip when we go and widen that? And when will that be taken care of? And then is there any plans with Bicentennial?
We've looked at Phillip, and that would go to the adjacent property owners. It'd be an assessment district on widening Phillip. As far as Bicentennial, we haven't done a lot of plans as far as from Phillip north at this point, just due to current traffic. But Brent and Judy may have more to add to that as well.
Okay.
You keep drawing the short straw, Judy.
I keep trying to get Brent to do it, but yeah. So when we did the subdivision for this property, we spoke with Chief in length multiple times, and we requested that they dedicate additional right-of-way for Phillip and for Bicentennial. So we've got enough width from their side that they did dedicate to us that we will be able to widen Phillip and widen Bicentennial. And verbally, they said they're not going to fight it if they were assessed their cost of the street. So I don't have that in writing, but they said that they would not contest it if they did have to pay for that.
So is the widening of Bicentennial just along their property, not all the way down to 4th?
That I don't know. I'm stepping out of that one.
Mayor, council, what we've talked about was a couple different segments. One was from 4th Street down to Phillip, and then be Phillip further down. Those two segments of Bicentennial. There's a segment of Bicentennial that doesn't exist, but is probably going to be looked at in the future. So it would be the whole street would be rebuilt to a city section. Right now, it's about a 24-foot asphalt section similar to West 9th Street. What we would envision is something along Bicentennial that would be similar to what we did to improvements on 9th Street in that type of fashion anyway.
Okay.
And that's what the extra right-of-way was acquired for, is to make that road section fit in there.
There's a drainage ditch on Bicentennial, right? So is there to revert that, or is that just because there's no curb and gutters?
Correct.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. And there's drainage infrastructure to go either to the Burlington ditch, or at the south end, it goes down Bicentennial and goes to the river. There's a inlet down at Phillip, so it would go two different directions.
So if it had curb and gutter, the drainage ditch is irrelevant.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
Brent, if I may ask, you're talking about extending that from 4th down to Phillip. Are they gonna have to get consent of landowners adjacent to that on both sides?
They're, depending on the road section that we end up with, I don't know if, I guess your question would be consent, meaning getting additional property.
Well, yeah,
or
you have to have approval of a certain percentage of the property owners.
If we do a paving district, that's correct. You have to have greater than 50% approve along a paving district.
Okay, and is there another alternative then, other than the paving district?
Grant money always works.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I mean,
But
that's
I'm gonna
another
say that
option.
A lot of those property owners on the west side, what to say, I mean, it's a modest area of town. that could be a burden on a lot of those people. Correct. On the west side. That's my concern about expanding it. I think it's a good idea, but now we gotta pay for it, and I don't know, that's really not, you know, it's not like assessing on Leota. The people there are retired or, I mean, that is a modest area of town, let's be fair about it. That's the only question I have.
So just to be clear, expanding Bicentennial is not a portion of the project we're considering tonight.
Correct.
I
Brad?
think it's a good point though, because they're gonna have two entrances to that trailer park on Bicentennial, so I think it does play, with all due respect, a little bit.
I didn't say it wasn't relevant.
Okay.
I just said it's not what we're
Okay.
considering. So,
Okay.
Expanding
Go ahead.
Bicentennial needs to happen, for
Yeah.
sure. Does anybody know, how much money we've spent in TIF on housing and how many units are in process and coming up? Is the city tracking all that?
We have it. I don't have those numbers in front of me, Brad. We track TIF, but I don't have that in front of me.
Well, I took a crack at it, and my numbers may not be as good as yours, but I'll get us close. Best I can tell, we've spent a boatload of money on TIF towards this. Matter of fact, we if you look at the state per capita, we are number one in how much TIF we used. 10%, 9.68% of our taxable value is on TIF. And that equates to over $10,000 per person is what we've done. I mean, we've done an absolute slew of TIF. But looking at just the real estate pieces, and I think I got everything except for the mall. These numbers don't include the mall. We've got $51 million going towards TIF just in real estate, and that's 1,216 doors or units that should be coming up. Now, these might not be exact, and developments, you know, change and things of that nature, but that is a massive amount of units coming into our area in the next 2-3 years. I'm a little concerned that we, you know, because you don't want to oversaturate the market and cause problems there. Another thing, I had a long talk with my wife. She has some concerns. She'd be here, but she's with the kiddos, so apparently it was her night to stay home. While the school system has plenty of room, they got lots of room. The issue is the location of where we're developing all these houses. Jefferson is the only school system that sits kind of in that area. The nearest would be Lake or Lincoln on the north side, or Washington, and Jefferson is packed. I mean, they have one grade that has 61 students in it for 2 teachers. I mean, they're just so. What they're going to have to do, it's going to be a redistricting nightmare to try and get the kiddos to a school that's even in semblance where they're going to make it make sense. And we've TIF'd all of this real estate that's coming up. So the majority of that property tax usually goes to the school system. So we've reduced quite a bit of the money that would be going to them. So they've got some problems moving forward that are going to have to be addressed. So I have some concerns with this project, whether we need it at this point or not. I don't know. I think I'm a no vote on the TIF piece of it. I hope the best of luck in getting this done, but I think that money, that $1.2 million, could go towards our school systems and some of our other projects.
other questions or comments? Pete?
I'm going to take a little bit different spin at that. And I'm just going to touch on one thing, then I want to talk about the development itself. You talk about all the TIF money, but without the potential TIF money or tax increment financing, which it's a financing tool, we would have 0 property tax dollars, because in lieu, it wouldn't have gotten completed if we did not TIF the project. So that, and we could still be sitting here like we were 5, 6, 7 years ago, you know, with no projects at all. And we could sit here and twiddle our thumbs. What I want to talk about, though, is when I see a TIF project, a lot of times I kind of grumble a little bit. You can never pick the developer, okay? as a city council, we get what is presented to us. And the reason I say this is because in this developer, we have a world-class developer coming and entertaining, building homes in North Platte that I still feel we desperately need. There is a price point here. We've captured the $450,000 market. We've captured the $350,000 market. Gary's tried to capture the $280,000 market. We haven't captured $150,000 market and down. So yeah, there's infill in town, you know, for rentals and things like that, but you're just not going to build a house for under $150,000. It's going to be extremely difficult. So I want to thank Chief for coming to the community, and I look to have a long relationship with them. Spent the good part of 2 days on the phone with numerous entities of our city government and our volunteers, for lack of better terms, with the CRA, with Planning Commission, with our city staff. And I did not talk to Mr. Bacon, but I know that he is looking out for us. He is our attorney. He's on our side. He's going to not put us in jeopardy. CRA talked at length with Greg Wilkie today. Greg Wilkie is working for us. He's done more to save the city money than I wasn't aware of it, but I appreciate what CRA and Greg Wilkie are doing. Roger Bullington was so nice to entertain me for a little bit this afternoon because I had a lot of questions for him. And I think everyone did a really nice job of explaining everything that I have concern. Keep in mind, this is the first part of the TIF, it's last first part of the TIF process. You know, we're approving this. Now, CRA still has a bunch of work to do with the redevelopment contract, working for us. Mr. Bacon's working for us. The developer, all those entities have to negotiate to put a good project in. So I just wanted to thank everyone's attention on this, and I appreciate what everyone's doing. One last point. You can bog yourself down with Bookface, and it can drive you in a hole. What you're seeing on social media is not always what it appears. So that's my point there. Don't get bogged down in that stuff. Talk to people, have communications, have open dialect, and we will continue to progress through the community. Thank you.
Go ahead, Brad.
So a couple points to refute there.
Mhm.
One, I agree with you. 7 years ago, TIF was a great idea. We need to get stuff going. But at what point, $50 million, I think total we're at like $233 million in TIF. At what point do you go, all right, we've used this tool well a lot. You ease back on it and you use other tools or you do other things.
I don't disagree.
That's my only
You're
point.
absolutely okay.
You know
Point
what I
taken.
mean? We don't want to oversaturate the market either, correct? I mean, that would be a bad thing. I feel like we're approaching that anyway. The other point, affordability. You take, so $150,000, but you forget about the $500 lot fee. I called some of the local mobile home parks in town, and they run from $475 to $725 is kind of what I got back. So let's call it $500 just to make the math simple. 500 times 247 is, I put it down, it's $1.48 million annually. That's a lot of overhead on top of the $150,000 you do. So you take $150,000 plus the $6,000 a year over 30 years, which is what people kind of look at average things. It turns into a $330,000 single wide. So when you talk about affordability, I don't know if the argument's as strong as what, you know, you're making it out to be.
Mayor,
Go ahead, Jim.
can I ask the city attorney, what, does this take a 5 vote or a 4? What type of vote does this take on this issue?
It's a resolution, and so it would take, I forget the exact terminology off the top of my head, but it would take a vote of 5 in favor to pass. So.
Rod?
I think the one thing we want to keep in mind here is we're thinking it's all people that are working class people that are working. I can see a lot of snowbirds, retirees coming up here spending 150,000, paying cash for it. And where are they going to live any cheaper that they have, you know, they'll take care of everything for them. And so I don't know that it's going to be, I think you'll see a lot of retirees that go south in the winter, come back and be buying these. That's just my opinion.
Is that your plan?
Huh?
Is that your plan?
No, but if you go to Arizona, you see these everywhere, these kind of places, and this is the first for North Platte, and I think we need to support it.
Mr.
Lane.
Mayor, if I may, just real quick, and this is just numbers quickly sitting here, taking into account that these homes, as we talked about, are not TIF, and so they'll get right under the tax rolls. If they would be sales taxable on the sale, that's somewhere in the $700,000 range if all lots were sold, right there. So we're talking $1 million TIF, there's 700,000 sales tax for the city. They would generate, just off today's, basic math, off the current levies of the city, county, school, it generate about 370,000 annually for the school and property taxes, about 120,000 annually for the city, and about 100,000 annually for the county. That's not TIFable. So that's just some numbers. I did some quick math here, if that all happens.
Ed?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I think this project is much needed. I really do. And I know the chief can do a good job. And I'm not, obviously, to nobody's surprise, I'm not gonna vote for the TIF. But I think this is gonna be a great addition to our community. I really do. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm really kind of hoping, honestly, that there's a different attitude in our town than there was 5 or 6 years ago. People are more upbeat. People are more encouraged about what's going on. And I guess I'm kind of hoping that as we continue to improve our community from the outside, other people in town are maybe going to take the initiative, maybe clean up their sites a little bit. Maybe, and we're already seeing it, some of it up on Rodeo Road. One of the motels up there recited the whole thing and it changed the whole complexion of the building. And I think those things are going to continue to happen. So I'm encouraged by this. Rob, I don't know who's going to live out there. Maybe it will be the very people you're talking about, but I think they're going to be filled. I do. I have some concern, as Brad mentioned, about it's pretty hard to look in my crystal ball anyway and see how many homes we're going to need, because I don't think anybody knows that. But I do agree with you, Ty, and thanks for the comment about personal.
It wasn't intended just for you, Councilman Raker. Facing that way.
It's very appropriate, and I appreciate it. But I do think, and you mentioned this, in addition to the property tax, the personal property, about the time limit on the tranches of the TIP. I think we definitely need to have some restrictions there, that this thing can't drag out for 15, 20 years. I don't know how to do that. That's Mr. Bacon's job. That's why he gets paid for that. I don't. And he's got the smarts to do it. So I've said enough. I think this is a good job, a good project. And I do have one other question, though. We were talking about broadening Phillip. Will the broadening end at Bicentennial, or will it go on to the west?
It'd be 3 lanes like it starts at Bicentennial now, is what we would go from there east to Newberry. So it'd continue the same section as Phillip is, basically from the one-ways east all the way to Bicentennial.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, one last thing. I know a lot of people are watching this decision because it's an important one and people are very interested in it. So I know we've talked about this. When you talk about TIF money, we can't forget that there's really no such thing. They walk out of City Hall with a bond, and the only money they're getting back is the taxes they create in that development. And you can't believe how long that takes. I hope Gary doesn't mind me mentioning the number here, but the Chamber Devco project up at Milliken Meadows was intended to be something that we could all understand, look at, use as an example, learn from. And that project started in 2022. And today there's a number of homes, just eyeballing it, it's somewhere around a quarter done. Is that pretty close, Derek? Well, last year, their TIF receipts, their TIF money, which came from that project, was $15,508. This year, we've got it projected at somewhere between $31,000 and $36,000 of TIF revenue. Well, they've got, I think, over $1 million invested today in infrastructure up there. So for anybody who thinks that a developer comes here and walks out of City Hall with a big check to go put infrastructure in, doesn't understand how the mechanics of it work. I mean, we're 4 years after the approval of that project, and this year, I think they're hoping they have somewhere in the 30,000s of, let's call it TIF money, because that's the increment that's coming off those. And so it takes years and years and years to eventually get that TIF money. And I think that's back to your point, Ed, and the point that we had testimony on earlier. The design of these bonds being smart with their maturities and all that and thoughtful is key to doing this in a responsible manner. But we can't imagine for a minute that the developers are walking out of City Hall with a big check, because that's just not how it works.
That is a common misconception. I mean, I hear it from people, even though we've been talking about it for a long time. That's why I did the presentation back in November, where I walked through, in the ideal scenario, you might make money in 2 years. You might receive some money.
Yeah, well, it's one of the most complicated public finance tools that's out there, and it just takes a lot of practice to make sense of them.
Nick, oh, go ahead, Jim.
I just suggest, we're a short council, we got 7 people, and I think this is a contentious issue. I mean, I really do. I move we table this.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'm saying it's probably because, Brian, I think we need to have 8 members here, in my opinion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Nisley, second by Dye to table, calling the question on the table. I believe the item is tabled. Yeah, that's an action, so, yeah, okay. This item is tabled to the next meeting. Okay. Oh, good Lord.
I know, yeah.
I don't think it all. Oh, okay.
We're on a budget, Tracy.
All right, let's see. That was item number 6. Now we have a public hearing to consider. Yes, public hearing to consider action on application by Ted and Stephen Brewer for an amendment to the City of North Platte Comprehensive Plan 2011 land use map to amend certain land from agricultural vacant to commercial and residential, medium density and multifamily on property located at the intersection of East Francis Street and South Bryan Avenue and on South Tabor Avenue. Opening the public hearing on this matter. If anyone would like to make a comment, please approach and tell us who you are, where you live, and make your comment.
Hello, Taylor Sutton, 921 Tomahawk Road. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We initially submitted a rezoning request for B2 on lots 1, 2, and 3 of Brewer subdivision. I'm currently under contract and have a purchase agreement on Bryan and Francis lots 1 and 2. Those are the ones with the frontage of Francis and Bryan. My purchase agreement is contingent upon rezoning from A1 to B2. Without B2 zoning, I would not be able to move forward under the current terms of that agreement. After attending the Planning Commission meeting last Tuesday, they made some great points, but there's a couple points that were not talked about that I want to mention to support my request for B2. Since going under contract on this property, some major infrastructure changes have occurred. Bryan has been extended to the end of my prospective property line, and Francis Street has been extended to Devco with a future extension planned to Newberry. NDOT has identified Newberry as a future 4-lane highway, and as that occurs, only a few roads will provide direct connectivity through North Platte to Newberry. Of those, Francis is uniquely positioned to carry traffic to access Newberry with both left and right turns onto Newberry. Philip will only have the option of turning right, and because of that, it is my understanding that Francis is anticipated to handle a higher volume of traffic count, including truck traffic. The second thing that I would like to point out is to compare the lots on Phillip in front of the new apartments being built. These lots on Phillip road frontage are being advertised as commercial lots, and these lots are currently PR3 residential zoning and not rezoned to commercial yet. This would lead me to believe that there is some kind of planned unit development with that landowner and the city. If the city agrees with letting that landowner rezone to commercial, then I would say that these lots are also a good candidate or a good comparable and candidate for B2, as they are also in close proximity to already existing B2 zoning. And there is a lot of land to be developed between Bryan and Newberry. So if there's a trajectory of B2 rezoning on Phillip, I would ask that these lots are treated with that in mind. Lastly, I appreciate the Planning Commission's support for commercial zoning, and I understand their reasoning for recommending B1 on these lots. I heard and understood their points, but there was no mention of this information, and I feel that the entirety of facts should be considered when making this decision. That being said, after reflecting on the Planning Commission's recommendation, I'd like to make another recommendation to consider to council and recommend a phased zoning approach on lots 1 and 2. So what I'm asking is that the 3.4 acre lot on the south side of Francis is rezoned to B2 as stated in the original application. We would have ample room for setbacks and landscaping as a buffer zone and undeveloped ag behind that lot currently. As for the 2 acre lot on the north side of Francis, that will be adjacent to the Lutheran Family Services Health Clinic. I am willing to take the Planning Commission's recommendation and move forward with B1, hence recommending a split zoning approach. I see both sides, and I think B2 still aligns with the infrastructure, anticipated traffic patterns, and long-term growth of this corridor. However, I understand the less intensity zoning on the B1 recommendation as well. So to be clear, I'm willing to negotiate the terms of our purchase agreement with the applicant, Ted and Steve Brewer, if we can move forward with B1 zoning on the north lots and B2 zoning on the south lots.
Okay, this is the public hearing, so thank you very much. We'll invite you back for questions. So, anyone else like to make a comment on this item?
I'll just make a quick comment, Council, Mr. Mayor. Jordan Mawson, 11145 North Weaver Hills, North Platte, Nebraska. We've been working on this project for a long time and worked with a lot of people in the area on how we should decide how to split some of this up on the redevelopment of what's happening in that area. It's been ag for a long time, much like everybody talked about. The Fritz property to the east is kind of that donut of North Platte. This is a part of that. So one of the lots sits south of, on Tabor, south of 3 residential homes currently. We had initially applied to go into a commercial rezoning. It's now been recommended to go to R3. There are 2 very nice 40 by 60 roughly buildings, metal buildings on that property currently used as storage. If it goes to R3, my concern would be that those are no longer conforming. So we'd have to find other avenues to try to make those conforming, which is going to be a little tricky, especially as we move forward. So I don't know what the right answer is, but I know that if we could get to something that made sense for those buildings so they could be continued to use as storage as they are, that's what I would like to see from the council. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Other questions or comments?
I move we close public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Vols, second by McNew to close the public hearing. Calling the question and closing the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Moving on to item number 7, consider action, the council will now consider action on application by Ted and Stephen Brewer for an amendment to the City of North Platte Comprehensive Plan 2011 land use map to amend certain land from agricultural vacant to commercial and residential medium density and multifamily on property located at the intersection of East Francis Street and South Bryan Avenue and on South Tabor Avenue.
Mr. Mayor, I move to amend the City of North Platte Comprehensive Plan 2011 future land use map, amending certain land from agricultural vacant to commercial and residential medium density and multifamily on property located at the intersection of East Francis Street and South Bryan Avenue and on South Tabor Avenue.
Second.
Motion by McNew, second by Vols.
This on first reading.
This is the first time we've considered this.
So this one, it would be passed on one vote because this is just the amendment to the future land use
Oh, I'm
map.
sorry.
Yep. So this would just be one vote on this one because it's the land use map first, and then the next items we get to the actual rezoning.
So, if I may real quick, if we were looking at doing the one on Tabor, commercial, we would amend my motion to do both, or all 3 lots commercial, is that correct?
Yes, if
Okay.
you wanted to change the one that was on Tabor.
Okay. Can I amend my motion to do all 3 lots commercial?
You say
So-
you want to amend, you could.
Yeah.
Well, you
Or
could
you
just,
could
you could just make the motion.
Okay, yeah. So, redo the whole thing?
Withdraw your motion.
Withdraw my motion. All right. So,
Does
I-
Pete, do you withdraw your second?
I withdraw.
okay, so I move to amend the North Platte, City of North Platte Comprehensive Plan 2011 future land use map, amending certain land from agricultural vacant to commercial located at the intersections of East Francis Street and South Bryan Avenue and on South Tabor Avenue.
Is that you, Ed?
Yeah.
Motion by McNew, second by Reeker. Okay. Any just further discussion on this item? Brad?
So per you're changing what you're saying, that what was recommended to be R3 is now going to be commercial,
Yes.
which creates a commercial pocket weirdly behind a bunch of residential, not anywhere near any other commercial. And you create a pocket of commercial.
Yes, I understand that. We do have the new, is it the new Lincoln connection that's going over there? And then there's a big field to the west of that we don't know what it's gonna be either. I think there's just a lot of unknowns that, I think it's gonna be a rather various mixed use of commercial and some residential over there, but I think there's a lot of unknowns on what is going to be in a lot of these vacant properties.
And I agree with you that that's the problem. It's hard to zone this, especially because when looking at it right now, you're creating a pocket. Now, if this big, ag land to the south goes all commercial, then you look like a hero and you had a crystal ball and you knew what you're talking about. But if somehow this gets all zoned residential,
Right.
it's gonna have this weird commercial sitting right smack dab in the middle of it. So I disagree with the change of the R3 back to commercial. I think it's gonna create a pocket potentially, especially with all this housing that's being developed over in this area.
Ed, go ahead.
Do we have an idea of maybe what could be built on that commercial property?
Let's ask the requester.
Are you talking about lot 3 off of Tabor or the Bryan of Francis road frontage?
Tabor.
Tabor. Jordan would have more information on that.
There's a bunch of pointing going on back there. Judy, hold on. Sorry, Taylor, I thought you had the whole story. I apologize.
Real quick, can you define which is lot 1, 2, and 3? Because that would help us.
Yes. If you look at the next item, the zoning item, you can see it a little bit better. Lot 1 is the lot that's on the north side of Francis. Lot 2 is on the south side of Francis, and lot 3 is on the Tabor property.
Helps a lot.
As far as what can be built on the commercial, it's gonna depend on what you end up doing. This right now that we're talking about is just the amendment to the land use. So it's just commercial if that's the way you go, or it's residential, whichever way you go there. So with commercial, you've got different options on your next item. You've got a B1, B2, B3. Or I guess even, well, couldn't really do industrial, but B1, B2, B3. So then at that point in the next item, you're gonna have to choose. Do you want it as B2, B1, B3? Different things can happen in each of them. Your B1 is your neighborhood commercial, so it's a lower intensity, mostly office buildings. You can do a gas station, but it has to be intertwined with like a Westfield type scenario if you're doing a B1. B2, you're looking at a little bit more intensive. You can do, or B2, excuse me, you can do service stations, you know, a little bit more traffic intensive type things, car dealerships, those types of things. B3 is tailored to downtown, so I would caution against B3, but those are kind of your commercial options. I know what Jordan was concerned with is that lot to the south already has 2 large buildings on there that were agricultural buildings, and now, you know, life's changing a little bit, so you're going to have 2 buildings that you're going to put on a lot. So are you going to put them on a residential lot, or are you going to put them on a commercial lot? He's a little bit concerned with if it's on a residential lot, you've got 2 buildings that are currently being used for storage, which was fine in an ag district. But now it's in a residential district, which would flip them into a legal non-conforming use at the present moment. And I may have to defer to the city attorney at this point, but legal non-conforming use you can continue to use no matter what the zoning is, as long as you have that use there. But if it's just storage at this point, I'm not sure where it's gonna run into. Can I rent it out? Can I not rent it out? That sort of thing when it comes to a legal non-conforming use. Does that answer your questions? Okay.
Go ahead, Kate. Hold on, Judy.
Whose choice was it to try and, I watched Planning Commission, they did a great job with this, and they chose R3. Can this stay ag? And I'm talking lot 3.
No. So the only way it can stay ag is if it's over 10 acres. And so that's the reason why this rezoning is in front of you, is because in order to do the subdivision and to split the lots, the property is all currently ag. So if it does anything less than 10 acres, it has to be rezoned to something. So your choices: industrial, commercial, residential, anything but ag.
Follow-up question.
Go ahead, Ty.
Judy, on that same line, don't you have to be to B2 to be storage? Or is that allowed in B1?
I would have to pull out the code and look. You can't do warehousing, anything like that. They could probably put an office space with some storage. They could change the building into an office space. But yeah, strictly storage, you would probably need to be a B2.
Yeah. See, that's where that lot's just so awkward. I watched the planning commission talk to some of the commissioners too about it, and I think they were trying to figure out what to do with it, knowing that I don't think anybody is after them to change what they're doing today.
Right.
But what do you do? So it's, yeah. Is there any route through any conditional use or variance or anything? Is there any route that can be moved to R3 or B1 and they can continue their use?
Again, they could continue their use as a legal non-conforming use right now as storage. Again, it does get into the legal ramifications of they're storing it for personal property right at the present moment. I don't know what happens if you can still use it as storage and rent it out or lease it or whatever. I don't know that answer. That would be a city attorney question. But yes, there's possibilities of you could do something in an R3, you could make it some sort of a business. I mean, we just did a conditional use for that health clinic in the R3 district, so there are some different R3 things that you could do with the building. Strictly storage, probably not so much. B1, there's a lot of different options, but again, strictly storage, probably not.
Ask a procedural question. We may have some issues here coming up. We've got an absent council member, and we have some issues that may be divided on the vote. Can Bill or Brandon, can you walk us through, I think there's certain votes the mayor has the privilege of voting the empty council seat. Could you at least walk through that so we all have a good understanding what that looks like?
Yes, I'll happily try.
Okay.
The statute that I'm looking at specifically deals with ordinances, resolutions, or orders for the payment of money. So this particular item is not an ordinance or a resolution. It's just an amendment to the future land use map. So it doesn't require the higher number of votes that, say, an ordinance or a resolution would require. So it would be somewhat more questionable. It would have to depend on the number of votes. There are still circumstances on those lower required number of votes where the mayor can still issue a vote in order to get to that, we'll just say majority. So that can happen. Depends on the number of votes. It may be that if we, well, I don't want to speculate on votes. So, so it is possible under the right circumstances for something like the amendment to the land use map for the mayor to vote. It's much more common where we're trying to get to that fifth vote where the mayor could vote for an ordinance or a resolution.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know if I explained that well enough, but hopefully it made sense.
Well, that law changed, a few years ago, and so I just was looking for a refresher on it, so thank you.
Judy, can I ask you a quick question? Have the applicants on this one indicated they're in a hurry?
Well, we've been doing this for quite some time.
Okay,
I'm sure they're getting to the point where they would really like to have it done. But if it's going to be difficult, I think they would probably rather have a good decision than one that's
Because
not so much.
even if the council chose to pass this, when we move on to item number 8, that's an ordinance that would typically be read at least twice, maybe, probably 3 times.
Yeah.
Maybe only twice, depends on how it goes, but.
Yeah.
Sure.
So our purchase agreement on lots 1 and 2, we have some other contingencies on there as well. I would be okay waiting if we need to extend the decision, as long as Jordan would be okay with that. It's not 4 years. Yeah. We are waiting on a couple other contingencies as well, so we do have time.
To be fair, Jordan, we can't promise anything, but it's probably won't be 4 years. Does that answer your question, Ty?
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to make sure that there was awareness that there are situations where the mayor can vote the empty seat. I mean, I thought the planning commission did a pretty thorough job on this one. I mean, I realize we're one step ahead of the zoning, but it kind of all ties together. What I heard them saying, or my interpretation of the planning commission's recommendation, was that they were comfortable with B1, which would be your Westfield style zoning, but B2, which is intended to be along a highway, they weren't as comfortable with because it's not along a highway. And so that's where their recommendation came in for B1. That third lot's kind of the strange one that may deserve, in my opinion, more analysis to figure out what to do with it. But
other questions or comments? Nick?
I guess just one last point. I mean, not trying to get ahead, but I mean, it does have where there are some B2, and I'm not saying these need to be B2, right? I'm just pointing out, like, commercial, I guess. There are B2 around this area, and then with some empty fields. There's one residential lot that probably, I don't know if it has much on there, could probably be commercial if somebody wanted to rezone that. But I think the third lot is kind of the wild card in this whole thing, and so trying to figure out what to do with that is tricky. I could see it going either way. I just wanted to throw commercial out there and see what other people's thoughts were on that. So,
Brad?
So as it stands, I'm not in favor of that lot 3 going commercial. I think it should be a residential just because of how it could be developed around there. It is easier to switch from residential to commercial than it is from commercial back to residential. Because if all this gets developed commercial, you're gonna have an argument right there to switch it over, and it'll be an easy argument. But if this goes all residential, that person that owns that commercial lot's not giving up that for nothing. You got a weird spot in there. So as I'm thinking through this, I'm gonna make a motion.
We got a motion on the floor, don't we?
No,
No.
so we have the original motion.
You're going to make an
I'm gonna make an
amendment.
amendment.
Okay.
And here's my logic. I'm gonna make an amendment to put that back to residential. We can vote on it, and that way it can still continue on. If we vote against it, then it dies on the vine, and then it kills their project. And I don't want to do that. So I'll make an amendment to change lot 3 back to residential.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion on the proposed amendment?
As a clarifying question, Mr. Mayor, would that just mean that lot 3 would be removed from the original motion? Or do you see it differently than that, Brad?
It would go back to what the original intent of the planning commission would be, where the third one, that Tabor lot, would be residential, and lots 1 and 2 would be commercial.
Okay, I understand. Because it's ag today. I see what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
So I know how I'm voting here. We're voting to make the lots 1 and 2 commercial, lot 3 residential. Then when we go to the zoning, we can change it if that's what, is that what we're
You can
saying?
specify the type of commercial once we get to item number 8.
are we voting on the amendment first?
Yeah, hold on, time out.
Clarification.
Time out. We are voting, we're discussing the proposed amendment by Councilman Garrick and seconded by by Councilman Lucas, which is to adjust lot 3 to residential. That's what we're talking about and what we will most likely vote on here in the near future. And then, if regardless of that status, then we'll go, however that lands, we'll go back to the original item, perhaps amended, perhaps not amended. Did you follow my logic?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And Taylor's was wanting it that way, or was she wanting it all?
No, we're talking about.
This isn't
Jordan's.
helping her.
Yeah, she
problem.
doesn't have a preference on this
Okay.
lot that's along Tabor. She's,
Okay.
I think from what
She's
she
just
said,
on the other ones.
yeah,
All right.
from what she said, she doesn't have an agreement to
Okay.
purchase that.
Okay, I'm following now.
Okay,
Sorry.
it's all right.
No, you're
Mr.
fine.
Mayor, can I add one comment,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor?
Why not?
Yeah. Well, I just want to add, I'm going to vote in favor of this to keep this moving along on 1 and 2. But I would hope if the council does follow Councilman Garrick's path here, that we still come back and try to figure out a good solution on 3, maybe outside of this. So.
Any other further comment on the proposed amendment? Okay. To be clear, if you vote in favor of this item, you will be changing lot 3 to residential. If you vote against it, you would not be. Everybody understand? Calling the question on this amendment. Okay. Amendment passes. So now we go back to the original item as amended. And the original item at this point, if I've been tracking correctly, would be that the lots 1 and 2 would be commercial and lot 3 would be residential. Is that everyone's understanding? We have any further Pete.
Pete.
Sorry.
Jordan, do you mind? Come on up real quick. Thank you. Okay, there's 2 buildings there right now. They're used for storage. They will continue to be used as storage, or does the prospect have a desire to do something different with that, or is he just using it as he's currently using it today?
They're planning to use it as they are today.
Okay.
In its current.
So in that case, this would be a legal non-conforming use. And if we kept it residential and no one's really going to do anything, if they choose to change the use, let's say they want to rent these out and have someone else store, I want to store my boat in there or something, then they could have potential problems. Am I accurate with that, Judy? Okay. She said possibly. So, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to get clarification of what the intended,
Right.
future use of
Yeah,
this
and this
is.
probably makes more sense in the next part, actually part 2 of the next part. But part of the reason was this got split up. The rest of it's vacant ag land. This had some improvement on it. It didn't necessarily make sense to carry buildings with value to them on ag land that was likely going to sell to, and the rest of the property is for sale, for reference here.
Okay.
I represent Brewers as a real estate agent on this transaction, and all of this. But some of that was split up, and the reason that we went to 5 parcels, we split both lots on north and south of Francis and east of Bryan, which allowed for Francis to continue through and to the point of where Bryan was going to end based upon the connections site there, because they were going to extend the road down to the end of Bryan to the end of their lot, which they sold those previous 2 lots 2.5 years ago now. So anyway, that was part of the reason why it got split up the way it did. The balance of that agricultural lot to the south and east of Tabor is, we worked with the city on putting corridor protection easements through it, so it got split up into smaller pieces. So we're trying to find ways that if we ended up selling those as separate lots, or a developer decided to buy them as separate lots and we had to abide by that corridor protection easement going through the middle, we were trying to keep at least both of them above 10, and we didn't want to include those buildings because they would devalue those buildings dramatically if they were to sell. But I think that's important, getting it into commercial versus residential. But
Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
anything else?
Okay, we're back to the original item as amended. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Okay, I'm going to call the question in a second here, but if you vote in favor, what you're doing is saying that lot 1 would be commercial, lot 2 would be commercial, and lot 3 would be residential. If you vote against, then you would be saying you want them all 3 to be commercial. Okay?
No, the other way.
They'd all stay ag.
It would all stay, it would all stay ag.
Sorry. I looked at the wrong note. I apologize. Sorry. There's a lot of scribbling on here, just to be fair. Okay.
Just as further
Gotcha.
clarification too, like Judy said, because these are being rezoned from ag, they need to be rezoned to something.
Yep.
So, and this is just the future land use map.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Calling the question.
Read the motion again, if you don't mind. I know. This is to.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay. So, the amended motion would be to amend the City of North Platte Comprehensive Plan 2011 land use map to amend certain land from agricultural vacant to commercial and residential on property located at the intersection of East Francis Street and South Bryan Avenue and on South Tabor Avenue.
That's correct. So the functional portion of it is lot 1 would be commercial if you vote in favor. Lot 1 would be commercial. Lot 2 would be commercial. Lot 3 would be residential.
If you vote in favor.
If you vote in favor.
Okay.
I early voted, so.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay, calling the question.
It wasn't by mail, Ed.
Well, after much deliberation, that item is passed as amended. We are going to take about a 7-minute break. We'll reconvene at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
We're gonna get back at it here.
Oh, no, you're good. Bark at me. I'll bark back.
Despite popular rumor, I have not ordered pizza, so just keep that in mind.
Tacos.
Tacos. Well, it'd be taco pizza. If we're gonna have tacos, we have to have margaritas, and this meeting won't get over till midnight. Let's get on with it. Item number 8, public hearing, action to adopt ordinance number 4249 to rezone certain land from an A1 transitional agricultural district to a B1 neighborhood commercial district and an R3 dwelling district located at the intersection of East Francis Street and Bryan Avenue and on South Tabor Avenue. Lane, the ordinance, please.
Ordinance number 4249. An ordinance of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, rezoning certain lands described as blocks 4 and 5, opportunity subdivision, and part of the south half of section 3, township 13 north, range 30 west of the 6 p.m., and then north half of section 10, township 13 north, range 30 west of the 6 p.m. North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, proposed lots 1, 2, and 3 Brewer subdivision from an A1 transitional agricultural district to a B1 neighborhood commercial district and to an R3 dwelling district, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Thank you. Opening the public hearing on this matter. Obviously, it's the matter we just spent quite a bit of time discussing, so if anyone has a comment on it, please approach the microphone, let us know your thoughts.
Mawson, 11145 North Weaver Hills. Mr. Mayor, Council, real quick thought that we had on that. I don't know where it stands in an R3 to utilize existing structures the way they are. If somebody wanted to add an additional storage unit to that and use them as that, like in a grandfathered in situation for the life of what it is now. If they wanted to rent them out or something like that, is that a possibility in this? Just something we were thinking about. Don't know if that's something that could happen. And if somebody decided to change and build something else there, is that something that then that grandfather would go away and then they'd have to go back at that time and rezone it? But they could potentially, say 5 years down the road, sell that property to an investor that wanted to build another 40 by 60 building to store boats in, for instance, and be able to capitalize on that as long as they didn't change what the existing use of those buildings was. That's my comment.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make a comment?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Volt, to close the public hearing. Council will now consider action to adopt ordinance number 4249.
You wanna
What?
close the public
Oh,
hearing?
sorry. Calling the question on closing the public hearing. So everybody knows I have not eaten dinner and hardly had lunch, so I think that's my problem here. Okay. Public hearing is now closed. All right if I go on? Okay, sounds good. Action to adopt ordinance number 4249 to rezone certain land from an A1 transitional agricultural district to a B1 neighborhood commercial district and an R3 dwelling district located at the intersection of East Francis Street and on Bryan Avenue and on South Tabor Avenue.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 4249 to rezone certain land from an A1 transitional agricultural district to a B1 neighborhood commercial district and an R3 dwelling district located at the intersection of East Francis Street and Bryan Avenue and on South Tabor Avenue on first reading.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Bowles. Judy? Based on the previously approved amended item, do we need to adjust anything at the beginning of this conversation? And if so, what is it?
Planning's hard.
Yes.
Yes. So with the R3, if you want to go with the residential, so what you've done now is you've amended the land use plan. So that opens up the lots 1 and 2 to some type of commercial, B1, B2, B3. That opens up your residential to, it's supposed to be multifamily. You could go R2, R3, basically. So you've got some options there when you're rezoning. To talk about the existing buildings on the lot that's possibly going to be either an R2 or an R3. Legal non-conforming use is you can continue to use the property as it is until such time as you vacate that use for 12 months. Now, you cannot expand on that use. So if it's now a storage building, it can continue to be a storage building. It cannot be a storage building with an addition or a storage building with another building. It can be as it is today, period, okay? So if you're gonna leave it as that non-conforming, now, they could build a house, now you got a house and a garage in a residential. You could take the current structure that they have right now, make it a barn-dominium, so now you got living quarters in there, it's residential. So there are options.
So we don't need to actually make the zoning motion different or anything based on our current situation.
Not necessarily. So what it is, the way that you read it is B1 and then your R3. Now, if you decide to go something other than a B1 or an R3, then yes, you'll have to change it.
Okay, go ahead, Brad.
So on the R3, the existing structures, they can use it as storage ad nauseam, no problems. But if they want to rent it out as storage to somebody else, they're going to run into problems.
I'm going to defer that question to the attorney.
That's generally not the type of thing that I want to comment on here, because I'd like to be able to reserve the possibility. I'd rather have Judy comment, because I would be the one that actually would be enforcing it. I don't want to issue a legal opinion about it here, because I don't want to tie my hands as to anything, because it could depend on a number of factors as to what might happen from an enforcement perspective.
If I understand Jordan right, that's the potential future use you're looking at, correct? Potential.
From a zoning standpoint, if the property is being used as it is, I don't ask somebody, do you own it? Let me see the copy of your sales agreement. Let me see your rental agreement. If they're using it as storage, it's storage.
Ty?
Judy, there's nothing that forbids us coming back. So let's say that 6 months or a year from now, they wanted to build that extra building. At that point, there's been further evolution of the area. The council could certainly entertain in the planning commission another application to flip it back to a commercial at that point, right?
Correct. Very few things are ever written in stone.
Yeah, so I see this R3 as a holding place on this lot, frankly, because, you know, if they want to do something different on it, I mean, it doesn't disturb what they're doing today. And if they want to do something different on it, they can tell us about it and seek that zoning change in the future. So there's no good solution on that. This one is there. But
It's tough.
But there's not a time period or anything that forbids them from reapplying for it. Is there a significant cost factor?
$525.
Kind of significant.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments?
So now we need to address Taylor's B1, B2, 1, 2. Can you come back up, please, now that we have numbers on our
Jordan,
lots?
come on up.
Or no, this is Taylor. No, can I speak before her? Oh, sure.
My question, I guess, I don't know if I've fully got it answered. If they were to keep that property and hold it, can they lease it out to somebody and for monetary gain, or could they sell it to somebody in an R3 state with it the way it's existing now and make money off of it if that were the case? Am I understanding that correctly? That's what I want to know.
Yes.
All right, Taylor.
Yeah. I apologize, Taylor. When you made your long explanation, I didn't have 1, 2, and 3, so I was confused on which lots you're talking about.
apologize.
No,
I apologize.
You're fine. Bad maps. So lot 1 is the north one, and lot 2 is the south one, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay,
Lot 2 would be the 3.39 acre lot, and lot 1 would be the 2.01 acre lots.
Yep. So lot 1 is north of Francis, and lot 2 is south of Francis.
Yes, correct.
Which do you want B1 and which do you want B2? I missed that part.
Well, on the initial application, I requested B2 on both lots. Planning Commission made some really good recommendations. Still like to see B2 on that 3.39 acre lot, the one on the south side. Open to suggestions or possibly working towards a phased zoning approach with B1 on the north side and B2 on the south side.
What's your plan, if you don't mind me asking, for the B2?
Well, overall, we started this acquisition when it was still a field. So we put the contingencies on there with the paving and infrastructure being built out. And we've been, it's been a while just to get to this point. I think that the highest and best use of that property will be evolving as that entire corridor is evolving. Right now, Francis stops at Devco. I know Brett was just telling me about the next phase going on there. But as that continues to go to Newberry and that traffic count increases, that could change the highest and best use of that property from an investment perspective.
That was a very good non-answer. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Well,
so, and I agree with you. The Francis corridor, making that commercial makes perfect sense. I mean, there's going to be a lot of traffic going through there. I got no arguments with that. I think that's a great idea.
we just, looking at it from an investment standpoint as well, when Newberry turns into the 4 lanes and how that traffic goes by that those corner lots, I just don't want to tie myself into, saying something and that could change with traffic count down the road.
Other questions or comments? Go ahead, Jay.
I just want to add, this is a tough one. I mean, the planning commission looked at it carefully. Right. But this is going to be a major thoroughfare. To me, this is one of the more challenging decisions we've had in planning and zoning in quite some time, because you can sure, from my view, you could sure understand that. I mean, I don't know that somebody wants to put a hotel there, or somebody wants to put a smaller car dealership, something. Mini warehouses becomes one of the big differentials between B1 and B2. A lot of people believe that they're not the best use of good property. In some ways, they can be a fabulous buffer to residential. So, part of me likes some of those aspects of B2, but the property's not on the highway, and B2 is the highway zoning.
Mm-hmm.
So, they've got a tough one in front of us on the. I'm completely in support of commercial. It's just difficult to decide where the right answer is there, from my view.
If I may, Ty,
Sorry, go ahead.
I struggle a little bit with maybe it's outdated terminology a little bit with B2 calling it highway commercial, but maybe it should be more, high traffic commercial, because we have a number of places that really aren't highway where that fits because of the traffic counts more than anything. But I understand your point on the warehouses, because my feeling on that. I wish they weren't along any of those nice commercial avenues, and maybe that's changed as we do the comp plan. But just my thoughts on that maybe calling it highway commercial isn't the best name for it in today's world.
Just a clarification on that point too, to Councilman Lucas's point about mini warehouses. I've got the code up, and so in a B2 district, a mini warehouse would require a conditional use.
Is it allowed in a B1? It's
No, B1's more restrictive, so it would not be allowed in the B1.
Thank you. I feel Francis is probably going to be a major business corridor as well. I feel like it's going to be a lot of businesses on that frontage and then houses behind it. The good thing is that we're building a big enough road on Francis, I believe. It's 80 foot wide, if that's what I'm reading correctly. So it's going to be.
It's a 3-lane road.
Yeah. So it's going to be a fairly good sized road. I almost feel like B2 would probably fit here, but I think B1's just as acceptable. But
Go ahead, Ty.
I don't know how I'm gonna vote on this, but I think it deserves a vote. And so I'm gonna motion an amendment on the two B1s to B2.
Second.
Both of them?
Yeah, both of them.
Say that again, Ty.
I'm motioning an amendment. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm motioning an amendment to the current motion that the two B1s would flip to B2 with the intention that that deserves a vote.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to change the zoning from the current B1s to be changed to a B2. Is that correctly stated?
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, if that would fail, we'd still have a B1 motion, correct?
Correct.
Procedurally? Okay, thank you.
Any comments on that item, Ed?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So, down the road, as this begins to develop, we can come back and change that zoning again, can we not?
The zoning could be changed, yes, but generally, the city can't just unilaterally we generally don't unilaterally change it. We would generally look to the property owner to come in and ask for a zoning change, generally.
Well, okay, I guess exactly where I'm going.
Yeah.
I mean, if the property, if the highway, if the street rather, somebody sees an opportunity there that would really, really work nicely and you need to change the zoning when it comes to the city, the option is still there that we could rezone it to accommodate what he wants to put on.
Certainly, depending on the city council at that time and I guess whether they agreed with the plan. So that could happen, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments on the proposed amendment? Okay, we're voting on the amendment. If you vote in favor, you're voting to, many of you are already voting, thank you. Change from B1 to B2 zoning. Calling the question. Okay, the item passes. So we're now looking at B2 zoning. Back to the original item as amended, meaning these two lots would be B2 rather than B1. Any other questions or comments on this item as amended? Calling the question on the item as amended. Item passes as amended. Okay, moving on to item number 9. Approve preliminary and final approval for Brewer subdivision located at the intersection of South Bryan Avenue and East Francis Street in the A1 Agricultural District. Mm-hmm.
Move to adopt the recommendation of the City Planning Commission for preliminary and final approval of Brewer subdivision.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Dye. Discussion on item number 9.
So just so I'm clear, this is then taking that R3 we just made and then dividing it up.
Correct. Yep, so these are the actual lots that we've been talking about the zoning.
Anything else? Dye?
But to clarify, zoning will still go through further readings, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the subdivision, but the zoning will come back. Okay, I just make sure, I understand.
To go through at least one more, and then if council chooses, they can shorten it. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question, item number 9, please. Item number 9 is passed. Item number 10 starts with a public hearing to consider amending the City of North Platte Comprehensive Plan 2011 future land use map, amending certain land from commercial to residential low density single family on property located at 206 West Fremont Drive. Someone will have to make a motion for us to continue.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay. Motion by McNew, second by Reeker to close the public hearing. Calling the question on closing the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Council will now consider amend the City of North Platte Comprehensive Plan 2011 future land use map, amending certain land from commercial to residential low density, single family on property located 206 West Fremont Drive.
Mayor, I move to amend the City of North Platte Comprehensive Plan 2011 future land use map, amending certain land from commercial to residential low density, single family on property located at 206 West Fremont Drive.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Nisley. Judy, what are we doing? You should have chosen the closer seat. Really? Just getting your steps in.
So this one, again, we're doing an amendment and a rezoning. This is down south, 83 Fremont, kind of by the college area. This does look like, when you're looking at it, it does kind of look like it would be property that would be more conducive to commercial. But when you really get to looking at what's there, there's existing residential. And the properties in question don't have access to Highway 83. And there's no frontage. You can't get the access to Highway 83 because of the controlled access from the state. So access is off of Fremont. And so that makes it a little bit more difficult for commercial. So the property owner requested to do a residential zoning. And again, that's why you have to do the amendment first and then go for the rezoning. And reason being, I believe he wants to build an outbuilding and can't do that in a commercial district since he already has a residential structure there. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to help. And the applicant is in the audience also if you want to talk to him.
Okay. Thank you. Questions? Hi.
Real quick. Still gravel road, right? Okay,
Fremont,
that's what
yes.
I thought. Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Is the floodplain issue improved in that area from where it used to be, or is there still a lot of floodplain issues there to deal with?
I don't know if you know off the top of your head.
It's improved since 2006, but it still can be an issue in that area. It's still around there, but it's better than, there's been some improvements in that area. So
Take it the applicant's aware of floodplain in the area. It looks like well aware from the shaking heads. Okay, thank you. Yep, sounds like a great project. Thank you.
Nick?
I just have a comment on this is all. I don't mind what's happening, rezoning it to, residential. It, like Judy said, it does look like good commercial property. We have a lot of rezonings come before us easements, everything like that. And I think this is one that maybe could have been planned a little bit better beforehand because along Tractor Supply and Murphy Tractor, when you go north of the Fremont Drive, there's a nice frontage road there. The same could have happened on the south side, but instead that frontage road is a private drive to the vet clinic. So I think, I thank everybody here for, taking a lot of consideration into planning because this is one where it could have been prime commercial property had this vet clinic not had taken up the frontage road. So I think that's kind of where we ran into a pickle. We're just kind of fixing things as we go along and pivoting from there. But those are the only comments that I had.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 10. Item number 10 is passed. Item number 11, we have another public hearing. Action to adopt ordinance number 4250 to rezone certain lands from B2 Highway Commercial District to an RL Suburban Dwelling District on property located 206 West Fremont Drive. Lane, the ordinance, please.
Ordinance number 4250. An ordinance of the City of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, rezoning certain lands described as lots 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, and part of Lot 5, Block 2, Schwartzlander subdivision, North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, from a B2 highway district to an RL dwelling district, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Thank you. Public hearing is open. Anyone like to make a comment, please approach and tell us what your thoughts are. Would appear that no one has a comment.
Mayor, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by McNew. Calling the question on closing the public hearing, please. Public hearing is now closed. Council will now consider action to adopt ordinance number 4250 to rezone certain lands from a B2 highway commercial district to an RL suburban dwelling district on property located at 206 West Fremont Drive.
Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 4250, rezone certain land from the B2 Highway Commercial District to an RL Suburban Dwelling District located at 206 West Fremont Drive on first reading.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Lucas. Do you have any discussion on item number 11?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Lucas.
Where the current applicant owns the property and it's kind of a downzoning, I'll motion an amendment to waive the 3 required readings.
Second.
Motion by Lucas, second by Nisley to waive the 3 readings. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, calling the question on the amendment to waive the 3 readings. Motion passes. Back to the original item, which would be voted on once based on the amendment. Any further discussion on the amended item number 11? Seeing none, calling the question on number 11 as amended. Number 11 is passed in a single reading. Moving on to number 12, we have a public hearing. Consider action on an application by White Lotus Group purchaser and Alda Holding LLC owner for an amendment to the City of North Platte Comprehensive Plan 2011 land use map to amend certain land from residential high-density multifamily to commercial on property located at 2105 East 2nd Street. I've opened the public hearing. Anyone like to make a comment on this item?
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'm Robert Stefka, 2016 William Avenue. I'm here to represent the White Lotus Group, which, as they are buyer broker, we are looking to take essentially a piece of ground that has been inactive for decades, quite frankly. And then what we're looking to do, and what the request was for the rezoning, is if you look obviously at the area around it, it was essentially swallowed up by B2 type zoning, which is what we are requesting for this, on behalf of working with a state governmental agency to essentially secure an RFP, a bid to build what will be an 8,300 square foot DMV building on behalf of the state. And I know that we kind of have the 2 public hearings here, one for the amended land use and then the other one for the rezoning, but essentially just wanted to give you that background as to what the client is working to do.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make a comment on this item?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Vols to close the public hearing. Calling the question on closing the public hearing, please. Mr. Nisley, would you vote, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you. Public hearing is now closed. Council will now consider action on application by White Lotus Group purchaser and Alda Holding owner, LLC owner, for an amendment to the City of North Platte Comprehensive Plan 2011 land use map to amend certain land from residential high-density multifamily to commercial on property located at 2105 East 2nd Street.
Mr. Mayor, I move to amend the City of North Platte's Comprehensive Plan 2011 future land use map, amending certain land from residential high-density multifamily to commercial on property located at 22105 East 2nd Street.
Second.
Motion by Vols, second by Reeker. Discussion on item number 12. Ed?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for Mr.
Robbie?
Stefka, please.
Sure.
What all kinds of driver testing is gonna be conducted here?
I believe and when I say we, I want to be clear that the RFP that went out to this developer, essentially, I have not looked through everything, but to my understanding, Mr. Reeker, it will be motorcycle driving, and I believe the CDL.
So potentially, we could have semi-tractor trailers being driven there so that.
And to my understanding, they would, yeah, and I apologize, I didn't mean to talk over
that's
you.
fine.
No, please go ahead and finish the question, I apologize.
Well, so potentially we could have somebody that wants to get a CDL, I think you mentioned CDL. Could be driving a semi-tractor trailer in that area to prove his driving capabilities to the officer.
Admittedly, I would suspect what they would do is they would drive to that location and then, yes, I mean, the testing would take place off-site, sure, but yes, they would have to bring their required vehicle to this site.
Has there been any work done to determine like turning radiuses and stuff? I've not had a CDL, so I don't know exactly what that entails. I presume there's maybe some maneuvering that has to be done to prove to the officer that I'm
Off-site?
capable of driving it.
Off-site, yes.
I don't know, is it gonna be off-site or on-site?
As I'm to understand this, and I should be careful because again, I have not read the actual RFP, is that they would bring their, motorcycle, car, truck, and then from there, just like, I would assume like any other driver's test, you leave the site and then you go through and the testing takes place. I mean, I guess I'm admittedly envisioning fortunately, it's been, too many years since my testing. But you show up and you take a written test and then obviously leave the premises for the actual driving test per se.
I guess I'm thinking about that particular side. If you're gonna go east on Second, then you're gonna get into Bicentennial, and you're gonna have to make a left or a right there, and depending on how much traffic we end up putting on that road with a semi, that could be a challenge to get out of it. Get onto that road. Seems to me like.
Maybe that's the test.
Yeah.
And I apologize, I shouldn't make light of it, but yeah.
Unless they've changed the rules right now to get a CDL, you can't go to the DMV here. You have to go to the college or you have to take a schooling. So the last I knew, you couldn't get a CDL through the DMV here.
Oh.
You had to go to Mid-Plains to take the class, or trucking companies put on classes and teach them. So it'd probably be just motorcycle, cars,
And the written portion.
written portion.
So actually, I've been looking into getting my CDL lately, so you can just go take the test. Like,
You can go take the test,
Yeah.
but they don't test you to drive. You have to go to
Yeah.
school.
No, you can just take the test, the driving test. Yeah, I don't know if it
They've
changed
changed it
recently then, I'm not sure.
We have trucks all the time right here on this street testing. I don't know exactly what all they do, but
Then they've changed it.
Yeah.
On Vine over here,
If you don't have a CDL, I thought you had to go to school.
At one point you did, I think they changed it, I think you can just
Okay.
take the test.
I'm wrong.
My problem with this is one, the road right there is not built for that kind of traffic that the load you're gonna put on it. And two, I understand the backside is all B2 commercial, so it looks, when you're looking at a map or you're a bird, it looks like it's contiguous, but when you're really over there, it's not. It's a pocket thing, so it's way closer to like an Enzo situation, or across the street where Gonzalez, where we declined them. So I'm going to be a no on this, just to stay the course. I'm going to do it the first time this time, not. for those.
Thanks,
reasons.
Robbie. Other questions or comments? Nick?
Just some comments on my aspect. That road, I'm kind of familiar with, and I just ironically was on it the other day, and two trucks, regular sized pickup trucks, were passing each other in opposite directions. Hardly enough room to do so. The road is asphalt. I think we need to be careful, because if we start rezoning all that stuff commercial, we're gonna have a problem with the road, and that's gonna fall on the city, you know, and I think we have enough roads that need attention right now. I know that these lots are sitting vacant and something eventually needs to happen with them. We just don't have that crystal ball, but I hate to see more stress put on the road, especially with other things that might be coming up. I don't know. That's all I got.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah,
Ty?
Mr. Mayor. Well, I've looked at this one hard too. You know, the tough thing is if you go over to West Fifth and you go up and down West Fifth, there's patches of gravel road, there's patches of thin roads. And so then I think to myself, well, what's the big deal with this project? I mean, this area touches commercial, it's big. The road's clearly the problem. I mean, in an ideal world, you'd maybe have a redevelopment plan here and you'd be addressing the road and you'd be kind of looking at it, but that's not what's before us. But we do have a lot of commercial property in the community that doesn't have an ideal road situation, and people just have to adapt to it if that's where they want to locate their businesses. I do think we've got a real awkward request here with declining the one across the street too. But I don't think we can imagine that we don't have a lot of commercial property in the community that has skinny roads in front of it.
If I
Go ahead,
may,
Jim.
The only thing I can relate to is Eugene, and I know that they have barred truck traffic. Well, the sign says that. They still go down.
Yeah.
I live out there, I've seen it. But, you know, and I really believe in development. I'd like to see this development, but, you know, I was concerned with just small trucks. We bring semis down that. That's really a small street.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number, what are we on, 12? Item number 12 fails, making item number 13 irrelevant. So moving on, so we'll remove item number 13 from the agenda. Item number 14 starts with a public hearing. Approve the bids for the Iron Horse Park Trail project and authorize the mayor to negotiate and sign contract documents for Schedule 1 with TL Sun Contractors, Inc. of Lexington, Nebraska, in the amount of $150,062.30, and Schedule 2 with Paulson, Inc. of Cozad, Nebraska, in the amount of $103,813. So we're opening a public hearing on this item. Brent, would you do us a little bit of information on what's going on here?
Good evening again. This is on if you're familiar with Iron Horse Park, it's over with Caboose where we used to have the visitor center. The north part is asphalt that has been deteriorating. And we received as part of this with the public hearing, we received a Game and Parks grant money, which is an 80-20 grant to redo that part of the trail. But the two parts in front of you is the north part redoing the asphalt into concrete and then extending it on the east part of the lake south, and it's going to tie back into that first dock is first coming from the east. So that's the two segments. We bid it looking at trying to, at the time, make sure the budget worked. So we have the two sections and we have two bidders. And initially, we're looking at the Game and Parks grant being just one portion, but the bids came in so well, we can do both portions with the grant money. So the public hearing part was just to allow public any input or comments on the redoing the trail around the lake with these two sections.
Thank you, Brent. So if anyone would like to make a comment about the trails or the process, feel free to come up and go ahead and make that comment.
Move to close the public hearing. Second.
A motion by Garrick, second by Reeker to close public hearing. Calling the question on closing a public hearing. Public hearing is closed. Council will now consider item 14, approve the bids for Iron Horse Park project, authorize mayor to negotiate signed contract documents for Schedule 1 with TL Sun Constructors, Inc. of Lexington, Nebraska in the amount of $151,062.30, and Schedule 2 with Paulson, Inc. of Cozad, Nebraska in the amount of $103,813.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the bids for the Iron Horse Park Trail project and authorize the mayor to negotiate and sign contract documents for Schedule 1 with TL Sun Construction Inc. of Lexington, Nebraska in the amount of $151,062.30. For Schedule 2 with Paulson Inc. of Cozad, Nebraska in the amount of $103,813.00.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Vols. Do we have any discussion on item number 14? Go ahead, Brad.
So this is existing trails that we're going to be redoing. Is that what you said?
The Schedule 1 is existing trail that we're redoing. Schedule 2 is an addition on the east side of the lake, and it ties back into the dock. So Schedule 2 is an extension of what's there.
Gotcha.
When we have a master plan to get all the way around the lake.
You do?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because my concern is, and I like this project a lot, anytime we can do our trails, like, let's do them. But if, I'd rather have old beat up trails and then extend it than to redo it, or is it that bad? And how do you
It's pretty bad, but with what we're looking at, looks like there's a good opportunity we can get around the rest of the lake maybe yet this year.
Okay.
We're working with Game and Parks and some other pieces. And then what we'd like to do is get all the way around this year if we can, so.
Leave it to the experts.
I would say that also for the funding, this is coming from a number of different pieces, the trails group, the grants, et cetera. And so, very little actual city money is going towards this. It's all, we put a lot of pieces together to get this. And then with these bids, like Brent said, we're hoping to be able to get around the whole thing.
Excellent.
Ty?
I've had more calls than I can believe about benches on our trails. And first, I think our trails are one of the best assets. It's a fabulous asset in our community. I'm wondering if, I completely support this, but I'm wondering if we can start to set a formal target for bench distance between benches. I've had many requests of that from especially some of our elderly residents who really like the trail system but want a place to take a little bit of a break. They in particular mentioned the area from the rec center west to Buffalo as an area that doesn't have one, and there's not down the one there currently. And so what I'm wondering is if either in our parks department, wherever it's appropriate, if we can set up a target distance with a goal of getting those infilled with any new projects and any existing, and then put some type of either advertising or coordination maybe with some of the mortuary services or whatnot, and try to generate the donation and memorial activity that we need to get those benches set. It's a pretty neat way to memorialize somebody too. And so it just seems like we've got a few gaps in there. Were you smiling at me? You're working on it?
Go ahead.
We are working on that. We're also working on trying to maybe standardize what type of benches so it's a little more uniform along there. So both those, I don't have a good answer as far as what the distances should be, but it's something we're working on, and especially the piece you mentioned, basically on Leo or behind Leota there from the edge of Centennial Park to Buffalo, having some benches maybe strategically placed where if you're sitting on it maybe for sunrise, sunset kind of thing, and also maybe some river view. So it's we're starting to work on that process. We're in the infancy stages of it, but I do like that thinking, and it's something for all the trails and also around this. When we walk the south portion, which would be not these two portions, but the continuing on around, where are some existing benches and should they be replaced? And also where would we put some other benches as part of what we looked at in that piece, which is being designed right now as we speak. So great project.
Sounds like you're getting the same calls that I'm getting in. Yeah, thank you.
Just a note on that topic, there are some covenants between the city and the neighboring property owners along that stretch that say that it's supposed to be wilderness park, and so we need to be careful about what we might develop along there. So just a note that we'll want to look at that before we get too deep into the plan.
Tree stumps carved as benches.
Are you talking about the area between Centennial and Buffalo? Or which?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Because there are areas where it does tighten up to the housing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to know. Thank you, Bill.
Nick?
Do we have a breakdown of what the city's portion is going to be at all? Or what we got for the grant? What did we get for the grant?
The grant was 250,000,
Oh,
and it's
wow.
80/20,
Okay.
so it'd be 300,000, and we were looking at some private funds to do the match portion
Okay.
on the grant part, so the Trails Committee, some other pieces like that.
How often does this particular grant come available?
They have it available, it's every year,
Okay.
every fall they do, but what I've seen, just my casual observance, is they kind of move it around. Like, they usually don't have the same community get it year after year, so.
Okay.
But it's available every year to apply for.
Do you know when the last time we had got one of these grants? It's been
I
a
don't-
long time.
I don't know if I would call it the city per se, but there was one on State Farm that the Bike Trail Committee was able to acquire. That was the one that goes from Buffalo to about Echo on State Farm. That was Game and Parks Bike Trail grant.
Okay.
So it was probably 23, 22, maybe 22, so.
And this grant's dedicated for bike trips, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 14. Item number 14 is passed.
They just voted on that.
You didn't, okay. It's still passed. That's okay.
Fat fingers.
June hates the trails.
You know me in recreation.
Coming up in your campaign.
Facebook tomorrow.
Yeah.
It happens to everyone.
You just don't want the bench.
Okay, we're all getting silly because it's almost 9 o'clock. Approve the claims.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pay the bills.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Vols. Any discussion on item number 15? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 15. Item number 15 is passed. Public agenda request to respect our city employees. Request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. If anyone has a public agenda request item, please approach the microphone. Let us know what your thoughts are. Mr. Reeker?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Vols to adjourn, calling the question on adjournment. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in about 2 weeks.